You're a tiny little boy posting on Twitter. It's the gayest soy thing you can do. Shut the fuck up, you little tater tot bitch. We are 2 minutes and 35 seconds into this video. I'm just as gay as the rest of us, motherfucker.
Feels just the same. Another sunny day in LA. Everything is fine, so they say. Wonder what the news is today. Cause I know that every day I'm at this fucking job. Her son is streaming. Watch him on the clock.
Listen, bro, the Lyra does not need this.
Trans people love playing Hearts of Iron 4. Eating pussy is the basic, bare minimum thing you can do.
You can do like, you
Where
have a
did they
fucking fat
find these
penis,
people, dude?
and
At the
women want to
trash
have
store?
sex.
Your job is posting, you're gay. Okay,
God,
I don't
I
make
hate
the fucking
women
rules.
so much.
But is he really a socialist? He's such a himbo, I can't handle it. He's got a car and a house, and it's better than mine. How the fuck can I sit here like everything's fine? That's just me being a fucking hog. Azan is streaming. Watch him on that clock.
What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, fantastic afternoon, fantastic pre-noon, no matter where you are in the world. I'm Saul Piker, and this is the House broadcast coming to you live from sunny California, Los Angeles, folks. We're live and alive, and I hope all the boys, girls, and MVs are having a great one, because today's a beautiful day. Today's a wonderful day. It's 75 degrees and sunny here in Los Angeles, California. It's Sunday, November 5th, 2023. It's Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. It's a secret Sunday. It's a special Sunday. It's a super secret special Sunday broadcast, the Sunday stream for all of you out there. We're going to be talking about it. It's going to be a short one, too. It's not going to be a very long one, because I have, of course, my own podcast coming up in a little bit. Unfortunately, while it's a great day here, it's not such a great day in Gaza as bombing has intensified. We're going to be talking about that as well. But before I get into that, this is part of the broadcast where I tell you a little bit about my personal news, about what's going on in my life. Psychedelic Gazelle, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. So let's do it. Okay. Last night I ended the broadcast and I hung out with my brother. That's right. Moo Dog is here in the building. We had a bro off. We broed our faces off. You know, we had a real bro dingo. A brodio, if you will. Kaya's coming back tomorrow, which is exciting. Beefy is here. You can see her behind me right there, which is very... Oh, look at that. Somebody got up as soon as she heard me mention her name. Kaya's coming tomorrow. She got a bee sting. She got stung by a bee in the face. But it's okay. But she's okay. She's fine. And other than that, did I watch the AOT? No, I did not watch the AOT finale last night. I haven't watched the last final season, part 3, partition 7. I have not. Okay, I have not watched that. We watched Spy Game last night instead. Spy Game was kind of mid, I'm gonna be honest, but it had Rob Redford and Brad Pitt in it, so I thought it'd be sick. A 2001 classic. And yes, I am still watching One Piece. I am. Put some respect on Tony Scott's name. Bro, Spy Game is literally a movie about the dangers of just, you know, I don't want to say it, but being a little drunk on the... It's about pussy power. I'll put it that way. It's about pee power. It's about pushing pee. Your hair looks different than from 10 hours ago because it's not... It's in the front. Like, I just took a shower and I just kind of let it hang instead of doing anything with it. But yeah, this morning I woke up and I went to ball up. That's right. And I fucking balled my freaking face off. I was hanging out with Nicewig and Greek and some other folks. We played some full court pickup basketball, played some threes, we played some fours, half court. And gosh darn it, it was good. I'll give you guys the update. Final tally was, let's see, on the fitness app, I played basketball. Total workout time was 1 hour and 42 minutes. The active calories were 1,490 active. The total calories, however, in that time frame was 1,734. Average heart rate throughout the entire process was 154 beats per minute. I think, balled my freaking face off pretty much. I was in the high intensity zone, zone 5, which is 173 beats per minute and more, for 33 minutes out of the 1 hour. A lot of sprinting, folks. A lot of sprinting, a lot of back and forth. But yeah. Man, you were traveling, I bet. Yeah, I traveled this dick into your mom, dude. Fucking got him. Oh my God. I'm a gaming frog, por favor, brother. Don't worry about it. We'll be doing some gaming. Gaming's coming back. I just want to say that I've been watching you for the past 2 years while I was in and out of the hospital. I drew art threads of you while I was in recovery and was one of the reasons I started streaming. I made a partner a few days ago. Just wanted to say thank you. Congratulations, Doodle Burb VT. I'm proud of you. I did not see the Attack on Titan finale. Did you finish the Ben Shabibo vid? No, because the Ben Shabibo vid is mind-boggling. It's stupid. It's triggering. And it's wrong. That's why I can't. There was another one that's even more triggering, though, I heard. There was another video that was even more triggering. But anyway, Kaya's coming back home tomorrow, and today we're just going to keep doing updates. We're going to keep doing updates from on the ground. Austin is here right now. You'll probably hear him in the background screaming because I think there's a Vikings game on or something. Okay. But yeah, I watched you for a whole day and 7 hours this month. Damn. Yeah, I get that. Super secret Sunday stream. Don't come in. By the way, leftovers might be coming back, so there's that, potentially. A lot of people were like freaking the fuck out, acting like it's not a thing, but we're still in the process. We're working through what we're gonna be doing, but potentially, I said potentially. But it was never supposed to be fully over anyway. It was weird that everybody was like definitely not cancel their friends again. We never stopped being friends. This is so stupid. I hate parasocial nonsense. Ethan and I never stopped being friends, okay? We never stopped being friends. You guys are so fucking annoying and so fucking weird. I understand if you're like, I understand if there were people in like weird orbiter communities, like haters and shit, who legitimately thought that was a thing, but that was never a thing. We've taken longer breaks in the fucking past than this. If you guys don't play a bit, then y'all aren't friends to troll the haters. Yeah. Maybe we should do that, actually. So odd. Such an odd thing. You got mentioned on Taps?
I don't know. Joan Rivers?
Our good friend Hassan, who's been going hard this entire time.
Solidarity with our hero.
Yeah,
our hero.
Hassan's doing it. Say what you want about Hassan.
I've said I appreciate.
But yeah, he does have integrity.
He does.
Yeah.
He's there. What's his name? Ethan Klein is mad at him or some shit, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I mean, Ethan's.
Okay, I'm not watching this. Okay, I'm not watching what fucking Cumtown is saying. Y'all are. No, that's definitely dumb as fuck. They probably did some dumbass shit. You need to go on Taps and stop being a baby about it. Yeah, dude. I love that there's like people in this community that also are fans of Adam and Nick. And Stavros, of course, and will routinely be like, go on the Adam Friedland show. And it's like really fucking annoying because the much larger, much broader community will be so fucking mad. Even Norman Finkelstein's been on Taps. Yeah, Norman Finkelstein's perspective on contemporary politics, especially as a guy who doesn't even have a fucking phone. He does not have a cell phone, like a smartphone. You feel me? Like, is entirely different than a person with a massive audience full of fucking teeny boppers who are experiencing their first wave of like politics and shit, who will never be able to understand, who are just like allergic, like consider any kind of laughter inducing take to be poison, especially. Wait, hold on. Anyway, Chris Cuomo will always have one up on you, dude. I think one of his a funny TikToker dropped another.
This is my impersonation of the Martin Luther King that you all quote when you want black people to shut up. It is me, Martin Luther King Jr., the only civil rights leader who ever lived. I had a dream, and it came true. So the rest of you Negroes can leave it alone now. Why are you protesting in the street? I would have never inconvenienced those nice white people like that. They're just trying to get to work. It is actually against the law for any black person to say something that contradicts anything that I said. So if you hear it, tell them I'm disappointed in them and that it is illegal to say that. Everybody loves me now, just like everybody loved me back then. It's why I died of natural causes at the age of 98. I only gave one speech. Don't Google it. I'm sure the person who is quoting me to you would have supported me back then as well.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
ask
that part is really good. That part is my favorite. It's like people who 100%, 1000% would not be in favor at all and would stand against progress, all the way ranging from like the white moderate, which Martin Luther King did write about, but also specifically like the reactionary conservatives who would say he's like reactionary conservatives who would just like straight up want to assassinate him.
Their parents or their grandparents what they thought about me.
Anyway, this guy's good. I'm gonna follow him. Yeah. I have the One Piece take. What is it? What?
So I'm sick and tired of people acting like the world government are the bad guys for what they did on Ohara. Like, first off, they didn't just bomb the island out of the blue. They warned the civilians first. You don't see the demon scholars of Ohara doing that. And not only did they warn the civilians, but they gave them an evacuation route and a refugee ship. Yeah, the Marines may have blown it up, but they had reason to believe that they were harboring scholars of Ohara. Now, Ohara supporters say they could have sent in a special operations group to search for and dispose of any of the scholars while keeping the civilians safe, but that is far too risky. First off, the devil child Nico Robin was at large. She sunk 5 Marine ships. Secondly, it is in the charter of these demon scholars to revive an ancient weapon and destroy the world. So,
Murat.
I'm sorry, a few casualties of war are going to have to happen to ensure the safety of the entire world.
That was no notes. That was fire, and he's right, and he should say it.
All right, so
I can't think of anything that's like. I can't think of anything that he's likening this to in contemporary society. This is just like a total good read, like a solid ass read. Do I denounce the scholars? Of course. Why? What kind of secrets do they want to find out? I don't understand. Why are they trying to find out the secrets? Like, maybe we forgot about them for a good reason. You know what I mean? Clearly, the one world government thinks there's a good reason for it. So I don't think that they should have ever, fucking stupid and violent, to be honest. I will never denounce Nico Robin, though. Do not tell me to denounce Nico Robin. Like, the scholars, the demon child Nico Robin is the one I make an exception for. Proof that From the River to the Sea is genocidal. Oh my God. Okay, here.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That is a genocidal slogan, okay? Because the river that they're talking about right here is the Jordan River. To the sea, Mediterranean Sea, I'll edit in post. Palestine will be free. What's in the middle here? Israel? No longer. Now it's Palestine. What happened to Israel? They pushed it into the sea. It's code.
Okay, the problem with Matt doing this is that, like, the problem with what Matt's doing here is that I know him. He's joking. He's being sarcastic. Problem is, it's a little too close to the fucking actual unironic counter.
It's code for doing a genocide. Whatever.
Which is pretty cool because, yeah, you said they're going to believe it and Anderson Cooper is going to call him out tonight. No, it's awesome because they're going to, like, accidentally... Matt is going to get, like, an APAC sponsorship, and then, like, Anderson Cooper is going to call him to be like, thank you for being a brave voice. It says here in your bio that, like, you're a writer, but also you're, like, a bit of a leftist, and it feels like you really get it. You really get the dangers that these scary Palestinian protesters are pushing for. So I think you should come on. Like, you're gonna have him on. They're gonna have him on CNN to just like talk about this.
Whoever's in the middle here, whatever country in the middle between river and sea that will be free is saying they will be free of the other. Whoever's free is just doing a genocide. That's how it is. And I can prove it because right now, from the river to the sea, Israel's free currently. And they're doing a genocide. So, I mean, it's kind of flawless logic. From the river to...
I mean, then, dude, okay, at this point, he's just saying, at this point, he is literally just saying what the argument is. You know how weak your argument is when you're pushing semantics? Brother, there's never been a moment where it wasn't semantics, okay? They already had him on. Okay, we're done. Shut the fuck up, chatter. That's American political commentator, journalist, hero, Adam Friedland, okay? How dare you? You don't understand. A moment's coming, especially at the top of the hour. I'm not going to run an ad break right now. Chat is fucking 12:57, but like, I'm going to do a 1 minute here. I'm not going to do a 3-minute ad break because like, I just started, you know? It's been 31 minutes, dog. We're not going to fucking run a goddamn ad break at this time. That'd be crazy. Okay, so where the fuck was I and what the fuck was I going to talk about? There is, I want to ask you guys, like, are there things that you've seen that are very frustrating to you that you would want me to address? Because I feel like, I feel like there was some stuff. I feel like there were some videos that you guys wanted me to watch. You want us to make you mad on purpose? Yeah, I just saw AIPAC post Bernie, and honestly, I don't even want to talk about it, but I guess we have to, because goddamn, very sad stuff. Very sad. I don't know what's happening.
I want to just clarify one thing, Senator, if I might. You support a humanitarian pause in Gaza. Some of your fellow progressives say that there should be a full-on ceasefire, which would require an agreement on both sides to halt the fighting. Do you support a ceasefire? And if not, why not?
Well, I don't know how you can have a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire, with an organization like Hamas, which is dedicated.
Even he's hitting the ha. God damn.
To turmoil and chaos and destroying the state of Israel. And I think what the Arab countries in the region.
Even he hit the fucking KH, dude. What's happening?
Understand that Hamas has got to go. So
I want to just clarify.
So many people say this, but it's like, brothers and sisters, have you not seen the past, like, at least the past 2 decades, okay? It's almost been 20 fucking years. It's going to be 20 years since Israel pulled out of Gaza, okay? Stopped occupying it. And they kept on doing this. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last, where they're just like, we got to deal with Hamas. We got to deal with Hamas. And it's like, isn't it Hamas? Why'd they say Hamas? I don't know. But anyway, the point is this. Okay? Does it mean that in the past operations that they engaged in, that they conducted in the fucking Gaza Strip, like they weren't trying to fucking eradicate Hamas? Were they lying back then? Because they said it that time too. They said it, as a matter of fact, every single time. They never just like go into Gaza and blow up Gaza to be like, we just want to kill civilians, actually. Of course they're not going to say that. Nobody would say that. Except this time around, they kind of are saying that. Like low key, but not even low key. Pretty high key saying that, as a matter of fact. So, like, how you're not stupid. You're a smart guy. You're a very, very smart guy, right? This is, not only are you a smart guy, you're Mr. Smarty guy. You're Mr. Smarty Pants, who has said he wants to deny Israel munitions and aid unless they fucking stop the occupation. So what's happening? Like, it just blows my mind. He's literally, like, historically been the guy. He's been the guy. They yelled at him. They said Bernie was anti-Semitic. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Bro, his ideological counterparts in Israel are complaining about how fucking ridiculous Bernie's been. Like, you're Bro, you're never running again. You're 98,000 years old. You are so much older than Israel. Why are you... Like, you were there when Israel wasn't real, and it was like Judea, okay? The fuck do you mean, bro? What are you doing? Motherfucker avoided the Romans and shit, and he's over here talking about like, oh, well, Hamas, we need to destroy Hamas. Like, I don't understand. It, like, physically makes no sense to me. Especially because what sits in my mind permanently is what Dr. Ofer Kasif said on this broadcast, where he literally tried to reach Bernie Sanders, okay? This man is an Israeli Knesset member who was suspended, okay? He's older than Israel. Bitch, many people are older than Israel. Israel is 75 years old, okay? There are a lot of people who are older than Israel. Joe Biden is older than Israel, of course. Half of Congress is older than Israel, dog. What the fuck do you mean? My point is, Bernard Sanders was not like, Sanders a liberal Zionist, but I don't really understand it because like I don't think he's ever been like a we need a one-state solution or anything like that. Like I'm not expecting him to say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free or whatever. Did anyone see a statement of the Hamas leader saying he wanted to end the state of Israel? Is there a link to that? Yes, dude. Hamas wants to end the state of Israel. Okay, yes. It doesn't matter what they want, okay? For every fucking dumbass like in Lebanon Hamas leader that comes out and is like, we want to do genocide to the Jews or whatever, there is 1,000 current sitting Israeli Knesset members who are like, we want to nuke Gaza, actually. Even if it kills us, we want to nuke Gaza. That's how much we want to fucking kill Palestinians. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The idea that, like, these guys constitute I was just asking to see it. I'm saying it wasn't a justification for Israel. Anyway. The oppressed versus the oppressed, the dichotomy. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this too. Yeah, I saw all of her other posts. It was crazy. She said war days from Tel Aviv, and this is what it looks like in Gaza City. You know what I mean? The point is, Hamas is a fucking mostly powerless entity. And also, their actions are a reaction. Bro, she was spamming that OnlyFans account. Nice, dude. I mean, good for her. Listen, sex work is real work. I respect it. You know, she's on that grind. It's kind of gross to do it, though, off of, you know, ethnic cleansing happening. Hamas is not an existential threat to Israel. They have about 20,000, 25,000 members. Israel's a population of 9.3 million people. Hezbollah has 100,000 fighters. No, the point is Hamas and the ideological predisposition that people attribute to Hamas, which certainly is real for many of its members, okay, that is a vengeful ideology that wants to like kill or do as much damage as possible to anyone living in Israel proper, is not one that is consistent across the board for all Palestinians. And Palestinians have, both by way of voting and also by way of polling, have shown that reality time and time again. And it's, by the way, completely understandable if almost all of the Palestinians were straight up like, oh yeah, we want to fucking do everything we can to violently break away from our chains, because they are being currently violently apprehended by a heavily militarized nuclear superpower that the United States of America is treating like a military base. It's completely ridiculous to not recognize that situation. Ultimately, though, that violence comes from the oppressor. The oppressor sets the standard of the violence. Superpower Israel doesn't have that high of a GDP. Man, what the fuck do you mean? It doesn't matter. First of all, Israel's a very wealthy country in general in comparison to its fucking counterparts. Maybe not like an oil-rich nation, obviously, but it has a fucking nuke, and it gets, at the very least, $3 billion a year from the United States of America. What the fuck do you want? This is a ridiculous fucking take. Like, Israel is small bean Andy is like one that I only hear from the likes of Ben Shapiro. It's got a nuke, dog. Fuck you mean? Also, here's the thing. I'm not fucking saying that like like the 9 million people living in Israel proper, 3/4 of them being Jewish by the Israeli designation. Okay, many of them are still Arab Jews. Like that those guys have to leave. Like, I'm not saying that at all. That's one, in my opinion, at this point, immoral, and two, it would be impossible. That's why I advocate for a one-state solution. And this is the position of many emancipatory movements within the Palestinian, amongst the Palestinians in perpetuity. No matter how hard people try to like say, no, you don't understand. They want to violently and aggressively wipe out all Jewish people. Like, that's their goal. Their goal is to just do like anti-Semitism. Like, that's what it is. It's stupid. And many scholars do not agree on this anyway, but the unfortunate reality is that they do not get any kind of fucking takes, any kind of like time. You will never hear from Norm Finkelstein on CNN. You will never hear from Ilan Pappé on CNN. You are, and these are again Jewish scholars. These are Israeli scholars. For Ilan Pappé, he's Israeli. There are anti-Zionist Israeli scholars out there, historians that have written about it. The new historians in general are very good on this. Okay, and of course, an intellectually curious mind would go, hold up, let me get a better understanding of what's going on, because a lot of these people that study war crimes consider Israel to be an apartheid state. Let's take a look. I wonder if there are people who are out there who have been writing about this kind of thing for a very long time. But no, of course not. We're not intellectually curious, because the goal of the media is not to be intellectually curious. The goal of the media is to cover the fucking asses of America's most important asset, Israel. Holy moly. Yes, Rashid Khalid is good as well.
Yeah. Why does not one country...
Why don't you ever refer to Palestinian scholars? It almost reinforces the idea that it's only reliable if it's an Israeli who says it. One, my name is Hassan. I don't know if you know this. So as a fellow named Hassan, when I'm talking to a larger American audience, I'm already coming at it from the back foot. Okay? There are certain things I can say and certain things that immediately will be weaponized against me. Two, Israeli scholars on the matter are some of the best scholars on the matter. This does not mean that there aren't Palestinians or other Muslim scholars, as a matter of fact, that have covered this issue great as well. The problem is, as a boy named Hassan, relying, I still have to tailor my commentary to the expectations of a Western audience. And having said that, I mention Edward Said quite frequently. Okay, he is the GOAT on this. Obviously, Orientalism, like, this is his life's work. So there's that. He is the Palestinian author. And I had Zachary Foster on not that long ago. So it's just, you're ridiculous. You're ridiculous for trying to fucking make this assertion, like trying to tie it to something. And you're only saying that because you read it on Twitter. That's the reason why. You read someone on Twitter pop off about that, and then and that's the reason why you brought it in here without even like checking. Yeah, you guys heard Austin in the background? Yeah. Oh shit. Murat! Oh, door's open. Oh no, I was yelling at Murat. His food is here. Touchdown Vikings. Hell yeah. Okay. Anyway, so let's continue. This is like the only fucking outlet that will ever have Norm on is Russia Today.
The entire Arab world not want to help their brothers and take them in, spread them out. You don't want them in Egypt. You don't want them in Jordan. You don't want them in Syria. You don't want them in Saudi Arabia. There's a million countries. Spread them out. Nobody wants to help them.
That's so gross, dude. Like, what do you mean? We just personally took Israel out of the equation in its entirety at this point. First of all, this is not true. There are 6 million Palestinians. There are 6 million Palestinians that have permanent refugee status living in the immediate region. Okay, the notion that like none of these other regional actors give a shit about Palestinians is a silly one. They have permanent refugee status, okay? And here's one country that they were expelled from, Israel. It's not a fucking it's not a natural disaster. It's not a hurricane. It's not a volcano. It's a fucking whole ass country. The only democracy in the Middle East, as a matter of fact, if you listen to like all of these fucking dumb bitches that have been pumping this strategy on the off season over and over again. That's why it's so permanent. It's so impossible to shake Americans out of this like idiotic notion that you cannot be a fucking democracy if you are an apartheid state, okay? There is no democracy when you're in apartheid. It's like looking at South Africa and be like, it's the only democracy in Africa. Okay, dude, yeah, it's a democracy for white people, or was a democracy for white people. Just like Israel is a democracy, and even then, it's like teetering on the edge of not being a full-blown democracy for Jews in Israel. That's it. It's fucking ridiculous. Spread them out. Look how callously we talk about doing ethnic cleansing and ethnic displacement. Like, fuck, man. Animals. These fucking donkeys, these baboons who wear these suits to make it seem like they are, they have the moral high ground. Okay? They do not.
Why? This is a difficult. I'll tell you what. Let's pause for a moment. Thank you.
I'll answer in one simple sentence.
Make your point. But we're going
to. Any of the European countries or the United States want Jews before the Nazi Holocaust? Maybe the Jews were like the Palestinians. They were so horrible. They were so vicious. They were so bestial, or as the current Israeli government calls them, human animals. Maybe that's why none of the European countries and the United States didn't want them. Do you think that's the reason?
This is not easy. But we're going to have.
Oh my God, look at his face. Look at his face. He just got fucking absolutely eviscerated. He's got nothing.
I'm curious,
gentlemen,
you think that's the reason you're smiling, but your stupid smirk won't change the fact that the very argument you used was used by Hitler.
Sir?
Yeah, the same argument you used was used by Hitler
because I'm a Jew?
to justify.
Bro, you're talking to also a Jewish person, okay? Like, what do you mean? Oh, because I'm a Jew? It's like, hey, dumbass. Norm is Jewish too, you fucking dumbass. Shut the fuck up. Listen. This is also part of the reason why I rely on a variety of different literature, but also certainly anti-Zionist Jews as well. Like, I make that argument with the name Hassan. Is over. It's Jover. Nobody even understands that I'm like the comparison that I'm making. Nobody understands that the comparison I'm making is like the dehumanization is what you were doing to Arabs. Okay? Everybody goes, oh, dude, you're a Nazi. Fuck off. Move on. That's the difference.
And you don't like Jews, do you?
Gentlemen.
Your argument was used by Hitler to justify the extermination of the Jews. Nobody.
What's my argument?
Nobody wants them because they're so terrible and so horrible. You're a Nazi speaking now in those kinds of arguments.
This has become very contentious. We're going to take a break. I want to thank you both.
Not on my part.
Doctor, I want to thank.
Yeah, you got fucking Cumster, dog. Holy shit. Oh my God. Why is Twitch hiding you from my followers queue is a question people ask me all the fucking time. I don't know why, and it usually isn't even a real issue, and it's just like a you-specific thing.
Dr. Norman Finkelstein, as well as Steve.
He goes, I don't know what you're talking about. Shut the fuck up, bitch. You just got absolutely destroyed. You got destroyed.
Malzberg for this very passionate and, as you can see, very.
Oh my God, he got fucking absolutely doo-dooed on. He just fucking dookied on him. Because it is true. It's true. Have you watched Shapiro versus Oxford students vid? There's a lot more discussion on the conflict than in Cambridge. Wait, is the one I watched the Cambridge vid? Is that what it was? This one was the Cambridge? Oh, it's not even the Oxford vid. Okay, give me the Oxford vid. I'll watch that one. It'll probably make me mauled. Big myth about the founding of Israel.
I want to break down the biggest myth about Israel.
Let me guess. big myth about the founding of Israel is that Zionism wasn't entirely too popular because obviously the Orthodox Jews, like the actually super religious Jews, were like, the fuck do you mean? The Torah says we don't have a nation until the Messiah comes back. You're being anti-Jewish for Zionism. And then he's going to say that there were reformists that wanted to just like stay in England and in other places in Europe, which is, again, it's an 8-minute video that I pre-watched because guess what? What he's describing is like historic facts that I have read as well, and most importantly is from is perfectly demonstrated in Ilan Pappé's work. Specifically, 10 Myths is the one that he is referencing. That's where it comes from. Like that's where, I mean, that's not where it comes from, but like he perfectly describes all of this stuff. Okay, Ben Shabibo went to England, which is, of course, literally the most, like, ultra-Zionist country on the planet. Ben Blipstein. Biden administration official says Israel's counterattack against Hamas has been too severe and too costly in civilian casualties, but they're unable to exert significant influence on America's closest ally in the Middle East to change its course. Yeah, I hate that pre-watch by reading one book. I mean, you can, if you're going to read one book, that's the book to read, in my opinion. Point is this, okay? I already told you, Ilan Pappé, 10 Myths. 10 Myths is the book. Everybody goes, what book? Source, the Bible. I've been dying for you to watch this video. Okay, sure, I'll watch this video. Confuse me with facts.
1945. World War II is finally over. Europe is filled with tens of millions of refugees. 2 years later, Great Britain lost control of Southeast Asia. India and Pakistan win independence, and 7 million Muslim refugees exchange places with 7 million Hindi refugees. Today,
I don't get it. What the fuck does that have to do with Israel? What's happening here? Fuck does this have to do?
Not one of these people is a refugee. Not one. They have integrated into their host countries and built new lives. And then
motherfuckers like, hey, I'll have you know, in 1919, there was also a border swap between Greece and Turkey, and they were not considered refugees no more. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. Really gruesome process in general, but also, still, the fuck does this have to do with Israel? Like, I don't get it. It wasn't 1919, but it was around that time. I don't fucking remember exactly when it was. God damn it, it's my own goddamn personal history, and I don't know.
In 1947, the United Nations presented a partition plan.
This is Israel's Foreign Affairs Ministry. Okay. Israel's Foreign Affairs Ministry.
For the Jewish homeland. The Arabs gave a resounding no to that plan.
Yeah, I wonder why, dude. I wonder why. Because most of the people at this point, the Jewish population is 33% of the people living on that land. They are seen as like settler colonialists, which they are. They are engaging in a settler colonialist project. Okay? And who is doing the settler colonial project? The motherfucking British that claimed that they were going to give a national piece of land to the Palestinians for collaborating with them against the Ottoman Empire. So, yeah, of course they're going to be like, no, dog, we don't want this. You told us we could have our land. I thought that's what was going on. What do you mean? And in that 1947 partition plan, at the end of the day, the 33% population of newcomers who are Jewish end up getting 55% of the population. No, it was like 94% Arabs and 6% Jews, man. It's not 33%. No, dog, you're wrong. Okay, you're wrong. In 1947, it was 33% of the population. It was. What you're talking about is 6% Jews before British Mandate Palestine, before Jewish immigration occurred. What you're talking about is when Jews were declared Palestinian and lived alongside Christians and Muslims under the Ottoman Empire. Okay? So here's what happens. Unless you're doing this semantics thing where you're talking about like 94% Arabs and 6% Jews is like Ashkenazi Jews are like those are the only ones who are Jewish, and then the rest of the Jewish Arabs are actually still Arab, which is true. They technically are, but not if you ask the ethno-state. The ethno-state does not declare Arab Jews to be Arab. That's a specific designation for Muslims and Christians who happen to be Arab. Jewish Arabs are not considered Arab. They're considered Jews. Why is this like weird, incredibly racist designation the norm? I don't know. Maybe because Zionism is an incredibly racist project because it's a settler colonial project. Of course, it's going to have a little bit of fucking racism baked into it. Anyway.
They rejected a state for themselves if it meant also giving a state to the Jews. 6 Arab states attacked the fledgling Jewish
Yeah, just out of fucking nowhere, this
state,
is what happened.
which was small but plucky and determined to survive. In the meantime, many of the Arab inhabitants left their homes because of the war and the promise by Arab leaders that the Jews would be defeated quickly. They planned to return when...
Okay, so there is some level of truth to this, okay? There is some level of truth to this. There is some level of truth to this. Some people did think, or actually most people did think that they were going to get back their homes, okay? That part is true. It's just a very gross way to cover the story by refusing to recognize that most of these like Arab villages had at this point, by this point, had created their own, like either they had like a barely a fucking standing, not even a militia, but just like some arms, small arms, because they had been disarmed by the British occupying force at the time. Okay, as opposed to the standing military that the Zionists had, Haganah with like more than 100,000. Okay, so of course it's not true. The only part of it that is true is the part of it that the part where there were definitely people that thought that they were going to come back to their houses once they left.
When they won the war and the Jews had been thrown into the sea.
I like the idea that they won the war and the Jews were thrown into the sea.
To their great surprise, they lost. Several 100,000 Arabs had become...
They lost. Yeah, bullshit. Like that he started off with 1947 instead of talking about the Nakba, because, yes, technically, the expulsions predate the Nakba. The Nakba is just the most significant form of it, the most militarized form of it, because it accompanied like the British completely pulling out at that point. However, leading up to the Nakba, there was constant back and forth fighting amongst Arab villagers who did not have as many weapons or anything like that against a very well-trained standing army. Like these were not just like random people. Like in many instances, people try to act like you just had like Holocaust survivors like grab up arms and get killed, and it was a big war against all these Arab nations. It's like fucking bullshit. And also, the reason why this video refuses to even say the word Nakba is because they want to cover it as though like a war broke out. I make videos about history and facts, continues to lie. I mean, this is the Israeli government. Of course it's a lie. Anyway, of course it's like, all of it is a lie. This is akin to like a Turkish government video talking about Armenian genocide being a lie, okay? It's the same shit. I think like me being Turkish, growing up in Turkey, learning about, in school, learning about Armenian genocide as being like objectively a lie is the way they cover it. In school, this is the way that I've been taught. 100% gives me like a unique perspective on this that most people will not be able to understand. So I get it. Like it's almost identical the way that Israel talks about the Nakba, the way that Israel talks about the Nakba is identical to the way that Turkey talks about the Armenian genocide, except the difference is Israel's a much more important and valuable ally to the United States, so like they can get away with just straight up fucking lying about everything.
Refugees. Later on.
Wow, Hassan, are you denying the Armenian genocide? Sad? What? No, I'm not. The fuck's wrong with you? I just described that I just described to you that I grew up in a country that does deny it, And for me to understand it, okay, don't make a joke like that, because there's so many motherfuckers who literally will take that and go, oh, he did it. Let's cut it out. Let's cut this. Most Americans, most viewers are American. They were a multitude of genocide denial. Yeah, but the difference is, like, it's impossible for Americans to come to terms with their own genocide denial. But because Turkey is a scary, bad Muslim, I think it's a better way to use their Orientalist perspective as a moment of clarity and education.
They would be called Palestinian refugees. On the other
it's disgusting.
hand, at about the same time, 850,000 Jews were forced out of their homes all over the Middle East. They had lived in the Arab world for thousands of years.
I like this fucking propaganda because, like, it literally, first of all, there's multiple waves of immigration that occur throughout this time frame because of different Arab countries having their own post-colonial movements, which also engages in, like, Jewish violence and pushing them out of their countries to go to Israel. But it's funny that he's saying this because this video in and of itself, unironically, if you know anything about the Nakba, if you know anything about, like, the forcible expulsion of Palestinians from their homes, makes it seem like the only reason why Jews were expelled from their homes is because of a reaction to the Nakba, which is true. That part is true, obviously. But it predates, like, Jewish immigration into Israel from Arab countries also predates the Nakba as well. So in a weird way, it ends up muddying the waters in a way that, like, benefits someone who is trying to make a wrong argument, claiming that the only reason why Jews were expelled from Arab countries is specifically because of a reaction to Israel and its nation state being formed.
But when the Arabs were defeated and the state of Israel was established, it was too much for the Arab regimes, and they showed...
A lot of it was immigration and not expulsion. Yes, a lot of it was immigration, but to say that it was, like, to say that it wasn't a consequence of, like, anti-Jewish violence, like, it would be wrong. That I don't agree with. I mean, there was heightened tension even before the Nakba.
Showed their Jews the door. Therefore, you could say that the Arabs and the Israelis exchanged populations.
Oh my God, this is so gross. The Arabs and the Israelis changed populations? You dumb fuck. God, these people are so fucking racist. Dude. This is so fucking stupid. One, the Palestinians, there is no one united Arab population, just like there is no one united Jewish population. Okay? This does two things. One, attribute the violence that other individual Arab nations in their own national movements, in their own nationalist movements to build a nation state for themselves, it attributes all of that violence to Palestinians. Okay, all Arabs are the same. They're one-track minded. They just hate Jews. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, like, it then makes it seem as though there was, like, this population transfer that occurred because all the Jews were also one-track minded as well. That they just, like, kind of swap places. Meanwhile, the Arabs that lived in those nations still live in those nations. The only people that got fucked over in this process are the Palestinians. It's ridiculous.
Much like in Europe after World War II, and much like the Hindus and Muslims.
That's gross. That's fucking gross. Yeah, dude. Yeah, like Moroccan Jews coming into Israel went through the same conditions as the Jews in the Holocaust. Good take. When you're so fucking horny, to try to, like, justify and also avoid talking about, like, the real genuine violence that you subjected people that lived there to, that you just end up doing a little bit of Holocaust revisionism. You know what I mean? It's fucking fine, you know, just a little bit. Anyway, the second thing that this video does, which is what Israel as a government has done that really frustrates me, is the idea that Jews and Arabs are separate. You can't eat hummus and you can't eat falafel and act like that's your own thing while simultaneously being like, Jews and Arabs are totally separate. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You can't be running around talking about how you make fucking hummus and then be like, Jews and Arabs are different. No, they're not. There are millions of Arab Jews, you fucking asshole. Fuck you. And fuck every Arab Jew that says that they're not fucking Arab, that there's something different. That is supremacist, okay? That is a supremacist ideal that was instilled upon a population that had to go through a rough integration process to Europeanize themselves a little bit. It's so dumb, dog. It's so fucking stupid. It's so ahistorical. Yeah, to ask an Arab Jew if they're Arab or not, and see how they fucking react to it. Maybe not in America, but in Israel. If you ask an Arab Jewish person in Israel if they're Arab, they fucking flip out. I mean, some Arab nations say they're not Arab, Lamau. I know that. I know. Lebanon. Sorry. That was just a weird cough that I have. I know. The terms Arab Jew and Mizrahi were phased out some time ago. I'm just saying, it's fucking, it's ridiculous. Also, I'm Turkish. I know constantly running away from like any kind of Arabic influence in your culture, okay? Trust me. One thing that fucking pisses Turks off more than anything else is that also being compared to Arabs, they get real fucking triggered by that. Jesus Christ. Nah, fuck that. I'm Lebanese and I consider myself Arab. Law. Yeah, probably because you're Muslim. Muslim Lebanese people consider themselves Arab this is a reductive take, but Muslim Lebanese people consider themselves to be Arab. Christian Lebanese people sometimes say that they're Phoenician. Anyway, we don't need to get into all of that, but this video is stupid as fuck.
Muslims in India and Pakistan, and leave things at that. But the Arabs aren't willing to leave things at that. If they had, the Arab states would have done what Israel did a long time ago with the Jews from Arab states.
Nah, Lebanese Christian here. The Phoenician guys are mostly mocked as far as I know. Yeah, like some Lebanese people in America say that as well.
Integrate the Palestinians into their society and provide them with citizenship. Wow, what a not revolutionary idea. So why weren't...
Yeah, this is so fucking stupid, okay? It's so dumb. Until 1967, all Arabs, like Palestinian citizens of Israel, that made up, 20% to 25% of the population, were under military rule. Okay? And then after 1967, those guys were still, they are still absolutely systematically disenfranchised in very legal ways because Israel is an ethno-state. Okay? But it didn't even fucking matter because then you also have a much larger problem post-1967 where you have an occupation on both Gaza and also in the West Bank. Now you have a much larger Palestinian population that you're completely fucking dominating. Bullshit.
Weren't they given citizenship or any other rights? The Palestinians were deliberately kept as refugees so that they could be used as a weapon in the war against Israel.
Yeah, dude, Israel is always small bean, They're always the small bean country. They're not a fucking violent ethno-state that has done a tremendous amount of ethnic displacement in the region as a settler colonial project. It's always just a small bean, and all these other guys, they're being kept as refugees to hurt Israel. You have to be a fucking schizophrenic psycho to just literally believe this, okay? No, you did this, and you don't want to fucking deal with it. You did it, and you don't want to deal with it, and you don't have to deal with it because, nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit about Palestinians. Why? Because they have nothing. There's no natural resources that the Palestinians have historically had. They got fucking olive trees and fishing, okay? So no one gives a fuck about, defending their rights. It's just the truth. That's it. And if you want to look at Palestinian history from the American perspective, the only reason why anyone has ever given a shit about Palestinians is because of our allegiances with the Gulf states leading up to the 60s and 70s because the Gulf states had a lot of power from oil. So that's the only ever interest in maybe looking at the Palestinian plight from the perspective of Palestinians was almost always from the perspective of the Gulf nation states that at the very least back then would fucking say like, this is unacceptable. This is completely unacceptable. We're gonna do everything in our power to make the West hurt. Anyway, yeah, the olive trees were set on fire in the West Bank. Hamas was hiding under them. I know. It's sickening, especially considering how long it takes for olive trees to actually produce olives. And these are 100-year-old fucking trees and shit that they're burning. It's the most disgusting, gross shit I've ever seen in my entire life. It is so violent. It is so awful. It is specifically done out of anger. It's for vengeance. Israel's incursion, Israel's siege on Gaza right now is an act of vengeance. It is not. It is an act of vengeance, and it is an act of ethnic cleansing and ethnic displacement. There is no real like ending Hamas purpose behind it. They know it. I know it. We all fucking know it. The American government knows it. That's why they keep like leaking to the press. Oh, Israel has no plan on the Gaza Strip. Maybe we should reconsider this. It seems like Israel has no plan on what to do with the Gaza Strip. Of course they don't have a fucking plan, because there is no plan. It's just violence. It's just like violently displacing as many people as possible, slowly but surely taking territory, additional territory. Meanwhile, the American government is like, wow, maybe use like smaller bombs. Please, you're making it really hard for us to defend you. That is unironically the perspective of the American government in this entire process, is to just simply stay behind and go, dog, please just fucking dial it back. You're making it so hard for us to defend you. Like, we want you to kill all the Palestinians. We do. We love that. Thank you. Please keep doing ethnic cleansing. That's actually pretty fire. We don't give a shit about Palestinians. We are America after all. And they're Arab. Why the fuck would we ever care? However, you can't keep doing it so publicly and so awfully, because the more you do it, the more people are going, hey, hold the fuck up. This is kind of gross, and this is ethnic cleansing. That's it. And yeah, there's nothing better. Oh my God, look at Ben Shapiro looking at, just fucking trying to execute this hijabi woman with his with his eyes over here. Here, there is no greater example that Israel is not indigenous to the fucking land. Like, people in Israel are not indigenous to the fucking land than, one, burning olive trees, and two, ruining the fucking water supply. Indigenous people don't do that, okay? It's fucking psychotic.
Decades after Israel's creation, and they're not in the West Bank. So, if you're going to be arguing about Hamas, how can we ignore that over 200 Palestinians have been killed, including over 40 children, making it the deadliest year for Palestinians in the West Bank before October 7th. That does not even include the killings happening now, just in 2023. So what justification do you have for that if Israel intends to, quote unquote, go after Hamas, is killing many people, especially children, under the justification of Hamas? So what justification do you have of them targeting the West Bank, even if we were to buy anything you said, which honestly I'm questioning?
Have you considered the fact that I'm incredibly racist and assume that all Arabs love Hamas and they are Hamas, and therefore I'm going to make an argument to do pogroms in the West Bank because they're also Hamas? Get wrecked. And then all of my dumbass dick riders are going to fucking clap because they are perma-stuck, never getting pussy for the rest of their fucking lives because they're young Republicans, young Tories in the UK. So the only thing that keeps them going is just like the thrill of debate, because they are just fucking deeply unlikable humans.
Sure. So the casualties that have been incurred in the West Bank are prior to October 7th. Largely, there have been many since October 7th because there have been many conflagrations between the IDF and the Palestinian Authority and Islamic Jihad members in the West Bank. There's significant violence over the course of the early part of this year. There's a breakaway group from the Palestinian Authority. It's called the Lions. The Lions were a small terrorist cell, the Lions Den. They were committing acts of terror in places ranging from Jerusalem to areas of the West Bank. And the IDF was going in and making operational decisions to kill many terrorists in these areas.
Yeah, he did it. He did exactly what I said. He did exactly what I said. He said literally, no, the IDF is killing terrorists in the West Bank. Yeah, the IDF, which, by the way, is currently, if we're looking at international law, what the IDF is doing in the West Bank is terror. What Palestinians do in the West Bank is self-defense and perfectly legal. You need to understand this. When Ben Shapiro talks about the West Bank and says the IDF has to occupy that area and they have to go and kill people, he is 100% in the wrong, okay? That is, by legal definitions, by international law, an act of terror. This is an indefensible act of terror that every single person with a conscience, and even plenty of people in Israel who otherwise are currently championing the fucking death and destruction of Gaza, would agree to. So remember that. When Ben talks about the West Bank and says, well, the IDF is like cleaning up terror there, bullshit. The IDF is doing terror in this region that they are occupying illegally. Completely unacceptable. It is immoral and it is illegal. Not many get the Monty there, okay? Not many acts are both illegal and immoral at the same time. Usually there's a lot of acts that are moral but still technically not covered under the law, like legally permissible and yet still moral. For example, an act of violence against a slaver would be illegal and yet moral. Do you understand? Whereas in this circumstance, in the West Bank, any kind of action that Palestinians take towards the occupying force is both moral and legal. Okay? Like 100%. And you rarely ever get that. You rarely ever get a situation where you're in the pocket entirely. Okay? So, understand that. So, everyone needs to recognize that Ben Shapiro is a fucking liar and a son of a bitch for making it seem like this, that these are like terrorists. It's like, no, they're not. They are the standing military of their own fucking land that you are unjustifiably occupying. Okay? The same goes for Lebanon. When Israel invaded and Israel was trying to fucking destroy Lebanon, every act of resistance against the IDF was legal. Was not only legal, but also moral. Same with Iraq. Same with Afghanistan. When America goes into another country and invades another country, resistance to that invasion, doesn't matter what our fucking fifis are about the matter, okay? Doesn't matter what mainstream media tells you, okay? It is perfectly legal and perfectly moral to resist against an occupying force, okay? I'm not saying the same thing about Israel proper. There is a distinction there, and that's an important one, okay? Which is why when I hear so many people try to conflate my perspective on the matter, they always say, oh, it's not talking about settlers. Like, he means like all Israelis are violently settling. It is not 1948, okay? It's not. It's not 1948. It's not 1967. It's 2023. The morality is obvious, but legal under what? Under international law. Anyway.
There are many areas in the West Bank that have been particularly infiltrated by terrorism. That the city of Jenin would be probably the example of.
Like, that's ridiculous. He's talking about like the Jenin Brigade, right? Like, oh, the city of Jenin is actually infiltrated by terrorists. You don't get to make that distinction. You can't say that. Like, that's a ridiculous thing, dude. It's like there is no difference. It's literally like Palestinians saying technically, it's like Palestinians saying technically all of Israel proper is overtaken by a terrorist cell. It's called the IDF. You know what I mean? What's the point of international law if there's no mechanism to enforce it? I mean, it's just, I don't know. These guys are supposedly liberals in a rule-based international order, so that's why I keep bringing up the international law perspective. I mean, usually it's international law is just like written by the victors to bully those who are not in the sphere of influence. It's pure hypocrisy ultimately. Yeah, international law is used to legitimize the current hegemony. Yeah, here it is. This is from 1975. Universal realization of the right to people's self-determination and of speedy granting independence to colonial countries and peoples for the effective guarantee and observance of human rights. I think this is where it's from. Decolonialization. I'll find it in a second. Settling is violent itself, but there are malicious settlers and settlers. Nonetheless, we all want innocents to live. Sadly, the other side can't even whisper the word ceasefire due to their racism and hatred. So, anyway, ultimately, Chatter sent me this this link. It's in Arabic, dude. Here, let me see if I can find it in English. Yeah. Reaffirms the inalienable right of all peoples under colonial and foreign domination and alien subjugation to self-determination, freedom, and independence in conformity with General Assembly Resolution 1514 and other relevant resolutions in the United Nations. 2, renews call to all states to recognize the right of self-determination and independence of all peoples subject to colonial and foreign domination and alien subjugation, and to offer them moral, material, and other forms of assistance in their struggle to exercise fully their inalienable right to self-determination and independence. Number 3, reaffirms the legitimacy of people's struggle for liberation from colonial and foreign domination and alien subjugation by all available means, including armed struggle. That's the key here. Number 4, demands full respect to the basic human rights of all individuals detained or imprisoned as a result of their struggle for self-determination and independence, and strict respect for Article 5 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, under which no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment, and their immediate release, which also is another thing that Israel violates regularly. Number 5, welcomes the recognition of governments of Portugal to the right of all peoples under its colonial administration of self-determination and independence. Number 6, urges the government of Portugal to continue to ensure the process of decolonization. Okay, so do you not realize that all of Palestine is colonized? It's not just the West Bank. How can you say Israel proper is different? The whole country is a settler colony. Yes, it doesn't matter. There's 9 million people there. And also, your perspective on the matter is not even the fucking popular perspective on the matter. Your perspective on the matter is not even like a perspective that more popular groups have held since like 1967. Okay? So it is a ridiculous fucking argument to continue pushing, especially because it's unhelpful, and also it would require a tremendous amount of violence. It's the same as like America, okay? The United States of America is a settler colony, and we are hundreds of years into our violent actions at this point. To turn around and say that like people that have been here for fucking 30 generations have to be violently removed from the land would be ridiculous. It would be, and I don't even think any fucking Native American land back movement revolves around this, okay? Which is always funny because people go, oh, dude, you just want to violently fucking kill everyone in New York and give it to the Native Americans. I don't think that indigenous people in America should murder Americans. I just think they should be in control of their land again. I agree with what you're saying, okay? This is why I say a one-state solution in my opinion, is a less violent solution than a two-state solution, because a two-state solution requires the forcible expulsion of 400,000 settlers living in the West Bank right now in order to offer Palestinians a nation state with contiguity. Okay? This is, by the way, what would be legal. It would be the first step in the legal process of ridding the West Bank of an unjustifiable, immoral, and very violent occupation that has made Israel into an apartheid state since 1967. Okay? So if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to fucking violently have almost 500,000 Israelis, and then we have the Jerusalem problem as well, which, you know, that is another at least 200 to 300,000 people living there in East Jerusalem, occupied East Jerusalem. So even if you were to just look at only the West Bank, there is still 450,000 settlers living in the West Bank, okay? They have been delicately partitioning Palestinian villages with the specific purpose of, like, you know, robbing them of their own land, which they have. It's like 75% of the entirety of West Bank is now occupied. 100% of the West Bank is occupied by the IDF, but 75% of the land is like directly now overtaken by Israeli forces or Israeli citizens. Settlers that live in the West Bank are in their everyday engaging in an act of terror. Settler colonial terrorism. That is what they are doing. Okay? 100%. Now, what is to be done? They have partitioned all of the Palestinian territories in the West Bank to 3 areas, which even then they also occupy some of those areas as well. Here, I used to be a two-stater as well, for the record. I am no longer a two-state solutioner, okay? I'm a one-stater for this reason. because there is no way out of this. This is an idea that the PFLP also was aware of, and even the PLO was aware of from the jump, from like the 60s onwards. Many of the popular movements were in recognition of a one-state solution being the only way to go about it, a secular one-state. Time and time again, they openly also mentioned that despite the fact that they were interested in violent emancipation, given how violent the colonial occupation was, they openly stated that they would not forcibly expel Jews from the land. That the idea, for the most part, okay, is that much like in Algeria, if there was in the beginning, much like in Algeria, if there was a post-colonial movement that succeeded, the Jewish population that wanted to stay there could absolutely stay there, and yet many would just simply flee somewhere else, okay? Flee back to Europe, flee back to another country, and that inherently is definitely violent. I understand that. This is precisely the reason why, as tactics evolved, and as the apartheid regime evolved and calcified and solidified itself as a permanent fixture in the Middle East, a systemic subjugating factor on Palestinian populations, that there was increased Jewish population in the area in Israel as the country's population grew to 9 million, 25% of which are still Palestinian citizens of Israel. The understanding shifted as well. I'm French Algerian Jew, Sephardi Haredim, and I also have lots of Muslim family, but we are anti-Zionist. Don't forget, a two-state solution is also impossible because remember what happened when Gaza settlers were forced out of Gaza? If the IDF did the same in the West Bank, it would become Algeria in 1960, i.e. a pseudo-civil mutiny of sorts where members of the IDF side with the settlers, etc. Yeah, there's also that aspect too. In 2005, the Israeli government forcibly pulled out all of the settlers from the Gaza Strip, okay? They acted like this was an act of kindness when it was not. When they forcibly pulled out the settlers, they had 8,000 settlers that were living in the Gaza Strip. They forcibly pulled them out. Remember those like greenhouses that all Zionists love talking about, the greenhouses? They had greenhouses, and they the Palestinian Arab dogs don't know how to deal with the greenhouses. You know who fucking destroyed those greenhouses? The motherfucking settlers did. They broke down the majority of the greenhouses. And the Israeli government that was supposed to fucking, teach them how to use the greenhouses didn't do that, didn't offer material support, and actually cut the water to those greenhouses that were coming in from Israel proper. Anyway, so that's besides the point. My point is, those 8,000 settlers were violently removed by the IDF from the settlements that they lived in. That was an act of violence. It was an act of understandable violence, but it was an act of violence nonetheless. Where did those settlers go? They didn't live in Israel proper. They fucking got shifted over to the West Bank. Yeah, they took them and they put them in West Bank. So here, this document here. This is from 1969. Okay, you said Control F democratic solution for PLFP's. Here. This is the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which was formed after, what was it, like two different groups merged. I think it was like the Revenge. Hold on. I don't want to fuck this up. I'm going to give you the actual group. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine is the second largest faction and the main opposition force to Fatah within the PLO. Okay? The PFLP, which styles itself as a revolutionary socialist group, has been in decline since the 1980s following the collapse of the Soviet Union, which had been its chief benefactor. Its standing has been further challenged by the emergence of non-PLO groups such as Hamas and Islamic Jihad. The group was co-founded by George Habash, Naif Hawatmeh, Wadi Haddad, and Ahmad Jibril as an umbrella organization for Marxist-Leninist and Arab nationalist groups. It still exists, but it is like around 3% popularity at this point. Okay, when you say, no, stop, Arab nationalism will never work, what you also fail to consider is that the original formation of Arab nationalism was supposed to be a post-colonial action. Many of these Arab nationalist groups that were inherently Marxist-Leninist were no different than Pan-African nationalist movements that were occurring against colonial violence and colonial occupation. So it was an anti-imperialist movement. It was not necessarily a nationalist movement that was born out of a nationalist movement that you would see here right now. This is a very important distinction that I make all the fucking time. I try to explain this to like Americans all the time. Nationalist movements, after you have already established a nation state, are inherently violent and oftentimes fascist. Nationalist movements, like the IRA, for example, are anti-colonial actions. They're anti-imperialist, anti-colonial movements. They are created. They are created to specifically engage in an act of emancipation. Anyway, the group was co-founded in 1967 by George Habash. I said the PLFP opposes serving in governments under the Palestinian Authority and has been critical of their policies, particularly regarding security coordination with Israel. Okay, which is very unpopular. The Palestinian Authority's security cooperation with Israel is seen as a gross stain. And why wouldn't they feel that way? Because the Palestinian Authority is basically a part of the security apparatus of Israel that dominates people's lives, engaging in an act of unjustifiable violence in the West Bank against Palestinians that live there in their own fucking homes, in their own ancestral homes that they've lived for hundreds of fucking years. It is widely seen as betrayal. The reason why that's important for many of you to understand is because every single time, every single step of the way, whenever Palestinians have cooperated with the Israeli government has used them as a weapon against Palestinians rather than offering them the reasonable conciliatory demands that they were making, like autonomy, a right to self-determination. The Israeli government has literally fucking utilized the conciliatory Palestinian groups that started off very popular, okay? 83%. That started off very popular, that put down their arms in an effort to engage with the Israeli government as equal actors, even though they were never equal actors at all. These are the guys. These are the guys that got fucked over deliberately by design. Okay, something to always consider when you're like, how did Hamas came to be? Is it because Muslims are violent barbarians who just like want to do anti-Jewish hate crimes in the name of Allah? Or is it because Israel very purposefully, as a part of its state policy, both openly and quietly, always wanted to deal with more militant factions that they could cast away as terror cells because they knew that its continuation required Western cooperation, okay? And how do you continue Western cooperation? Well, you take all of the fucking guys that are, that deal with the American administration, that literally get funding from the CIA, like Arafat or others under Arafat in Fatah, and make sure that they are only seen as a part of the Israeli security apparatus so that people recognize that they're not getting anything done. Anyway, the democratic solution: rejection of the chauvinistic and reactionary Zionist colonial solutions, which are based on recognizing the state of Israel as one of the facts of the Middle East area, because these solutions, besides contradicting the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination in their land, consecrate the Zionist expansion entity in liaison with colonialism and are hostile to the Palestinian and Arab national movements and are all the progressive and socialist forces in the world. On. Doors open. Number 2, rejection of the chauvinistic solutions of some Palestinians and Arabs, which were put forward before and after June 1967 and are based on the slaughtering the Jews and throwing them into the sea. Like, the founding charter of significantly more popular movements openly fucking, or time and time again has reinforced this value that it is not about throwing the Jews into the sea, knowing full well that that is how it will be represented regardless. No, it's not a guess. It's my food. It also rejects the reactionary solutions which are based on accepting the state of Israel within secure and recognized boundaries as exemplified in the November Security Council resolution. The aforementioned solutions are put forward at the expense of the right of the Palestinians to self-determination in their land, and because the solutions implanted in the Middle East area are a racist, capitalist, expansionist state dialectically in liaison with the world capitalism, which is hostile to Palestinian and Arab national liberation movements, and are all the progressive and socialist forces in the world. Number 3, the struggle for a popular democratic solution for the Palestinian and Israeli questions to be based on the liquidation of the Zionist entity exemplified in all government establishments, army, administration, police, and all the chauvinistic Zionist political and labor organizations. The establishment of a people's democratic Palestinian state in which the Arabs and the Israeli Jews will live without any discrimination whatsoever. The establishment of, I'm going to repeat that one more time for those of you who are dense and are unfamiliar. This is why the from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, being like being a concept that like isn't being a concept that just like means forcible expulsion and death and destruction to all Jews is not correct. The establishment of a people's democratic Palestinian state in which the Arabs and Israeli Jews will live without any discrimination whatsoever. A state which is against all forms of class and national subjugation and which gives both Arabs and Israeli Jews the right to develop their national culture. Okay? That's it. The Popular Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine calls on all the Israeli and Jewish elements and groupings who are hostile to Zionism and imperialism to support the above-mentioned solution and participate in the common Palestinian and people's armed struggle for the implementation of this democratic revolutionary solution. That's it. This is from the basic political documents of the Armed Palestinian Resistance Movement. And this chapter is specifically a democratic solution to the Palestine question. Basic political documents of the armed Palestinian Resistance Movement from 1969, the Palestine Liberation Organization Research Center. I believe the chapter that we read was the Popular Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine and not the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. But the movements at the time, notice how there is no Hamas here because it did not exist, okay? Because Hamas was not a thing. Hamas was founded in 1973 as a fucking Islamic charity. Its founding charter in 1988 as a political entity, while they were incredibly unpopular, yes, that's mine, thank you, happened in 1988. The notion that these fucking guys are in any way, shape, or form anything but an offshoot of Palestinian resistance that basically shows the destruction of Palestinian lives as a resistance movement to the increasing brutality of the occupying regime, the increasing brutality of the Israeli apartheid state. That is what created Hamas, okay? And even Hamas itself, in 2017, in an effort to get international recognition, chose to update their charter. And they did. And their charter is now woke. But that doesn't really matter. Everybody always talks about the 1988 charter because it's impossible to have that conversation. And also, there are still, at its leadership at least, Islamist elements. That in and of itself is true. Doesn't matter if the pre-2017, post-2017 Hamas and the government entity that has to engage in civic duties is very different. You have to start pronouncing your own name with the Hassan. Yeah. Now let's read the Likud charter. I will not do that because I feel like if I read you the Likud charter, I would get banned, or rather, if I read you the Likud charter, I would get NetzDG hit by NetzDG, and this entire stream would be area locked in Germany because they would go, hey, that's fascist and illegal to read. Yes, I mean it. I have read the Likud charter. I'm going to tell you right now, it's everything that Zionists attribute to how violent Palestinians are. Pure projection. They did cut ties with the Muslim Brotherhood in 2017, but they never was accepted by the Muslim Brotherhood for the violent arm. Cutting ties was to gain Iranian support. What's your opinion on calling this a war between Israel and Palestine, and if anything between Israel and Hamas, but I'm unsure of what to call it? I call it ethnic cleansing because that's what I think it is. Menachem Begin was a full-blown terrorist in 1948. Yes, 100%. No, I don't want it. The reason they pronounce it Hamas is because the equivalent of the Arabic letter KH is Heth, which Israeli pronounces a voiceless uvular fricative, KH, although it is actually pronounced as a voiceless pharyngeal fricative, Ha. In Judeo-Arabic, like it is in Arabic, by the way, that's the letter Chaya Raichik's name starts with, so it's actually Chaya, not Tachaya. Yeah. God damn, dude. Linguistic perverts in the chat. PFLP also explicitly called for a one democratic state with equal, hold on. Here. What we read was a popular Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which is supposed to be, I think, like, it turned into a Maoist one, right? I mean, what it is now is very different than, oh, God, it's too big of a fucking document. What page is it on, you said? 224. And Likud isn't even the most right-wing party and isn't real. Yeah. It's now the DFLP, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and PFLP, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. They have very limited popularity in comparison to other movements still. Of course, there's going to be splits in any kind of Marxist-Leninist formation because no matter what the cause, the uniting cause is, and Palestinian emancipation is the uniting cause for Palestinians, there's still, of course, always going to be deviations and maybe sectarian infighting. Sometimes sectarian infighting that turns into violent sectarian infighting. It's great. The Palestinian Liberation Movement is not racist or hostile to the Jews. It does not aim at the Jewish people. Its aim is breaking the Israeli entity as a military, political, and economic entity based on aggression, expansion, and organic unity with the interests of imperialism in our homeland. It is against Zionism as a racist, aggressive movement, which is true, in alliance with imperialism, which has capitalized on the suffering of the Jewish people to serve its interests and those of imperialism in this rich part of the world, which is the gateway to the countries of Africa and Asia. The aim of the Palestinian Liberation Movement is the establishment of a national democratic state in Palestine, in which the Arabs and Jews can live as equal citizens with regards to the rights and duties, forming an integral part of the democratic progressive Arab national existence, which will live peacefully with all the progressive forces in the world. Israel has carefully portrayed our war against it as a racist war, aiming at the destruction of every Jewish national and throwing him into the sea. The aim behind this is the gathering together of all Jewish nationals and their mobilization for a war of life or death. A basic strategy in our war against Israel should aim at exposing such a falsification and addressing the exploited, misled Jewish masses and pointing out the contradiction between their interests in living peacefully. Do you understand when you see the infinitely more popular historic movements of Palestinian emancipation? Maybe you get a better understanding as to why Hamas was used as a counterbalance, demonstrating Zionist arrogance once again, thinking, much like the Americans have time and time again, oh, we'll just push this button a little bit, we'll just help them out a little bit, and then maybe there will be divisions in the Palestinian emancipation movement, right? But the real divisions did not come from any kind of funding. The real division did not come from any kind of funding for Hamas or anything like that. The real division actually came in negotiations. This, in my opinion, is one of the most important parts of this story. This arrogance of thinking that the more Islamist, fundamentalist cutouts were going to never be taken seriously by the rest of the world, and we can always handle them violently, and no one will ever look at us and say, you guys are violent for dealing with these terrorists. That was wrong. That was wrong, especially because Israel thought that it could control this occupation, and that was also wrong. It was never going to be without cost. Now, there's a spiritual cost, in my opinion, because, as I always say, white supremacy also hurts white people, okay, without them realizing it. I mean, think about the popular idea that in the United States of America, why don't we have a lot of these social provisions that we normally would in our European counterparts? They enjoy, decent public transit, healthcare, all this kind of stuff. Why do we not have these social amenities? Well, because white supremacy is a very powerful force that completely makes it permissible to advocate against our betterment because, hey, guess what? Black people are going to take advantage of that shit too. This is how it has always been packaged and sold to people. The concept of welfare queens, the concept of a mixed income urban environment that is diverse being like a bad thing. the suburbs. Every single aspect of American development has been tarnished by white supremacist attitudes that end up fucking over white people too. And they champion their own demise. And the exact same thing happens in Israel. Okay? That's exactly why Israelis took it to the fucking streets and were freaking out about their last secular institution, the Supreme Court in Israel, that's supposed to uphold the values that Israel is a European-style secular nation state. The only democracy in the Middle East. Come on, guys. How did they do that? Because they lied to you and said they had to do that. They lied to you and said they had to fucking get more and more increasingly right-wing. And those right-wing elements were interested in throwing away secularism and making Israel full-blown fascist that would even harm the liberal Zionists inside of Israel. The more you learn about the history of Palestinians, the more you realize how this concept is just riddled with lies from top to bottom. Trying to talk about Palestinian emancipation by hyper-focusing on one aspect of it, by saying, oh, Hamas is the invention of ultra-Zionists. Like they want this, like Bibists and the Likud party has been able to justify its increasingly more violent means of control by saying it's because we have to deal with Hamas. It's bullshit. Hamas is but a mere expression of how violent the conditions are. And throughout its history, throughout the history of Palestinian emancipation, Hamas was never a popular movement. It's only a popular movement now as a consequence of how violent this occupation has been.
A two-state solution, but Israel has killed the two-state solution with the settlements. It's a struggle now between right-wing ethno-nationalism and liberal ethno-nationalism, and I don't approve of either. An essential element of democracy is equal rights. Today I support one democratic state from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea.
Whoa!
With equal...
Whoa, dude! Whoa! Avi! Chill, dog. You're being real anti-Semitic right now, dude. Hold up. Guys. I should have given a trigger warning. I didn't realize Israeli historian Avi Shleim was about to hit you with that fucking incredible anti-Semitic take. How dare he? That's crazy, bro. Everybody chill. I'm so sorry. I know a lot of you are probably really triggered right now because you heard this deeply anti-Semitic fucking take from Israeli historian Avi Shleim. So, why is this important? Why am I joking? Why am I joking about this? Why is this important? It's important because people who lap up ultra-Zionist propaganda live in an entirely separate world. Okay? An entirely separate world. Like, this is literally just like unimaginable. This conversation is like, oh, this is deep anti-Semitism. Okay? That's how ridiculous it is. Like, we can't even have a fucking normal conversation because the conversation is dominated by charlatans. I'm interested. I want to watch this.
I'd always heard
I want to watch this, but I want to also see like the specific
equal
part
rights for all its citizens, regardless of religion and ethnicity.
It's really sad seeing Hassan like this, his heart filled with rage. Really? You think my heart is filled with hate? Really? Ragnar 9000? The only fucking take he's had in the chat is just that. That's the first thing he's ever said.
The experience that my family and I had of living together, coexisting with Arabs, give me reason for hope that what happened once in the Middle East can happen again. I used to support a two-state solution, but Israel has killed the two-state solution with the settlements. It's a...
No, this ain't me, boys. My heart is dark. My heart is so dark. It's filled to the brim with darkness. The darkness of believing that one day all of the Israelis and Palestinians will be able to live in a secular, democratic country with equal rights and equal representation. Oh, man. At a certain point, yes, Avi Shleim is an Iraqi Jew. He's also famous for uncovering a not forgotten, but like a deliberately hidden part of Israeli history is he's the one who talked about how Mossad was engaging in synagogue bombings in Iraq, specifically to get the Iraqi Jews to leave and feel unsafe, which was already happening, but they were, you know, tilting the scales a little bit. Anyway, I want to watch this. Can someone send me the link of the Ali Velshi, the new Ali Velshi one?
Bennett drew criticism for a statement directed at an Israeli Arab member of parliament in which he asserted the Jewish right to settle the West Bank, saying to the Arab member, quote, "When you were still swinging from trees, we had a Jewish state here." End quote. With more, I am joined by Naftali Bennett himself, former Prime Minister of Israel, former Chief of Staff for incumbent Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In 2012, Bennett drew...
Oh my God. Ali Welshi is back, motherfucker. He is back, dude. And in a big way. In a fucking big-ass way, dude. I want to see that. We love to see it. That better be a quote from 1842. Dog, what do you mean? This is why, like... Guys, it is always difficult to have these conversations, but it's especially difficult to have these conversations if you are completely oblivious to it, and you think that like even having this conversation is like it's been portrayed as it being inherently anti-Semitic. Okay, it's not, but that stops many kind-hearted liberals who don't know any better dead in their fucking tracks. They don't want to even talk about it. They're like, oh God, I don't want to be anti-Semitic. It's offensive. It's gross. Anti-Semitism is a hate crime. That's why so many people are completely oblivious to the realities that at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, and sometimes it comes at 2:33. 1 month ago, this talk would all be considered anti-Semitic. I mean, I've been saying all of this shit for 10 fucking years now, but anyway,
shortage of horrific images and stories coming out of the Middle East since Hamas attacked Israel on October the 7th. 1,400 people were killed in Israel that day, and almost 10,000 people in Gaza are believed to have been killed in Israel's subsequent invasion. But for a few trucks that get in from Egypt each day, Gaza's 2 million residents are largely cut off from fresh water, electricity, fuel, and other resources until, as Israel demands, Hamas releases the 241 hostages that it is believed to be holding captive. The brutality of the conflict has given rise to an intense global response, including accusations that both Israel and Hamas, the de facto governing body in the Gaza Strip, have committed war crimes. Contradictory as it may seem, there are rules that govern war. In particular, there's a set of rules known as international humanitarian law, sometimes called the law of armed conflict. It's a set of laws that apply when 2 or more states engaged in armed conflict, regardless of which party initiated combat. International humanitarian law aims to strike a balance between addressing a nation's need to defend itself and sparing civilians and non-combatants from the dangers of war. And it includes 5 basic principles. That actions carried out by the military must be necessary, that they must distinguish between civilians and legitimate targets, that military actions must be proportionate in order to avoid incidental harm, that they must...
It's kind of sad, but it's also kind of funny to think about this, because it's like, when you realize it, it literally comes across as like, Israel looked at this document and was like, oh, we're going to do everything it tells us not to do. Like, these are the basic guidelines of how Israel attacks. Okay? Unironically, it's very similar to the checklist of genocide, the 8 checks of genocide. If you look through it, as I have before, the 8 checklists of what is a genocide is quite literally what Israel is doing. Like, you're looking at it and you're like, well, it feels like this is the fuck. Like, is this a guideline to how to deal with the Palestinians? Like, an answer to the Palestinian question? Like, the fuck?
Must avoid unnecessary human suffering, and that military actions must be honorable. The modern understanding of international humanitarian law began to take shape in the aftermath of the Holocaust. Shortly after the end of World War II, 21 top Nazi officials were arrested and indicted on a number of charges, including Hermann Goering, the infamous chief of the German Air Force and the last president of the Reichstag, who gave the order to carry out, quote, the final solution of the Jewish question, end quote. Beginning in November 1945 and lasting until October 1946, Goering and other Nazi officials were brought before the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg, Germany, to stand trial for their crimes. In preparation for the prosecution, the International Law Commission of the United Nations drafted a set of guidelines that became known as the Nuremberg Principles, and it defined war crimes as, quote, violations of the laws or customs of war which include, but are not limited to, murder, ill treatment or deportation to slave labor or for any other purpose of a civilian population of or in occupied territory, murder or ill treatment of prisoners of war or of persons on the seas, killing of hostages, plunder of public or private property, wanton destruction of cities, towns, or villages, or devastation not justified by military necessity. The Nuremberg Principles were only the beginning. Over the following years, officials from around the world participated in a series of conferences with the goal of updating the Geneva Conventions.
Ben Shapiro's like, fuck the Nuremberg Principles.
Which are a set of laws that govern international relations in an effort to get the global community united on a set of principles. In 1949, a set of 4 conventions, which in this context means treaties, was unveiled. Those conventions form the core of international humanitarian law as we know it. They offer a framework for how countries are expected to treat civilians, non-combatants, the sick, the wounded, and prisoners of war during times of conflict.
Literally,
it's also meant to protect non-military personnel, like medical professionals and humanitarian workers who may be working on the ground in battle zones.
Another one for
All
Israel.
196 member states of the United Nations have ratified the 1949 version of the Geneva Conventions, including Israel. Amendments known as the additional protocols were added to the Geneva Conventions in 1977 in order to strengthen protections for civilians and victims of armed conflicts. But to this day, a number of countries, including the United States and Israel, have not adopted the additional protocols because of their objections to some of its provisions. Joining me now is Ona Hathaway, professor of international law at Yale Law School, director of the Yale Law School Center for Global Legal Challenges, and the executive editor of Just Security. Ona, I'd say it's good to see you, but it's never good to see you because every time you and I talk, it's about war crimes. So let's talk about this. In the immediate aftermath of the October 7th attacks, Israel and the United States repeatedly asserted the fact that Israel has the right to defend itself, and that's largely accepted. But what does international humanitarian law tell us about how militaries decide on what an appropriate response to an attack like October 7th is?
Yeah, you're exactly right, that there's been no question that Israel has a right to defend itself. And in fact, the actions committed by Hamas were themselves war crimes. The wanton destruction, the deaths and intentional targeting of civilians.
True. This is true. 100%.
Sexual assault, all of the rest. Those are all war crimes. But that doesn't mean that you can do anything in response, right? Self-defense does allow you to defend yourself, but there are some limits to what you can do. And international humanitarian law places some limits on the behavior of states that are responding rightfully to attacks on themselves. So as you mentioned, in particular, one of the key requirements is that states have to protect civilians. They have to distinguish between combatants and civilians and try to minimize the impact of the war on civilians.
Yeah, you don't get
the death toll in
chatter is correct. You do not get under no circumstances do you get a war crime hall pass, especially when you are personally the fucking militarized state. Like, your standards are higher than Hamas. Okay? Straight up. But the fact that I don't even fucking say that. I literally am saying, like, can we hold you to the same standard of Hamas? Is met with, like, absolutely not. That is anti-Semitic as a counter. It blows my fucking mind. Ridiculous. Like, can we hold you to the same fucking international standards is a resounding no, and a cynical weaponization of anti-Semitism. A real hate crime. Gross. Grow up, Israel. and defenders of Israel, specifically defenders of Israeli violence, grow up.
In Gaza may well reach 10,000 this weekend, mostly civilian children and women. When we're thinking about war crimes
and the elderly,
what's the distinction between the killing of non-combatants and that term that we've been hearing for decades, collateral damage? Some officials have used that in the past to refer to civilian casualties that occur as a result of military activity.
Right. So this term collateral damage is a term that's used when a military is properly and intentionally targeting a military object. So they're trying to target leadership of Hamas, or they're trying to target weapons cache of Hamas. That's permissible. They're allowed to do that. They're allowed to aim at that military object. But what if there are civilians in the way? What if there are civilians above ground? These are in tunnel. A lot of these objects are located in tunnels. A lot of Hamas has located both their headquarters, and many of the forces are located in these tunnels. Many of their facilities and weapons caches are in tunnels, and there are civilians above ground, above these tunnels. And so when you're aiming at these military objects, you are permitted within limits to have some collateral damage. And collateral damage literally is actually killing of civilians and destruction of civilian objects. But the limitation is that it has to be proportional. So you have...
Guys, you want to know the funniest thing? You know how I've regularly talked about how, like, I talk about class violence all the time, and like liberals are blind to that reality, but there's like the type of racial violence and ethnic violence that liberals cannot look away from and like cannot just hand wave away, because it's something that goes against the core of liberal beliefs. The same... I mean, this is the reason why if you discuss what Israel has done on real terms, then it becomes utterly unjustifiable to even liberals as well. However, one part of the problem that many do not recognize is that the reason why Israel cannot do anything against Palestinians without it being a war crime is because it is an apartheid state. Like, you're not... Like, going to a foreign country and blowing it up is completely, utterly unjustifiable and is a war crime. But in this circumstance, especially, you are occupying them. You control their lives. That's why it's doubly a fucking war crime. There is no way to deal with Hamas that is violent. There's no violent means of dealing with Hamas without doing ethnic cleansing and ethnic displacement. This is a fact that Benjamin Netanyahu knows. That's why he deals with Hamas and negotiates only with Hamas and ritualistically destroys any kind of semblance of power that Palestinian Authority could ever have for the crime of being stupid enough to fucking actually meet Israel on their own terms. Terms that are unimaginably cruel. Terms that are ridiculous. Terms that should be fucking thrown out if there was any honesty in this process.
Have to limit the destruction that you do in the process of your legitimate targeting of military objects. And you can't kill an outsized number of civilians, even though you may have legitimate military object to your targeting.
Oh, no, there's another term that we're hearing a lot about, and it's collective punishment. It's a term that's been used over the past few weeks. What does collective punishment mean, and how should we think about it in terms of the rules of war?
Well, the idea of collective punishment is that you're essentially
Israel split left and right, but currently with a far-right leader? No, man. The Israeli center and the Israeli right are literally... Let me explain something to you. Israeli politics, from our understanding, from like a clueless liberal's perspective, literally is like straight up fucking Nazis. I will say that 100%. Like Jewish Power Party, like open homophobes, like openly describing themselves as like fascist homophobes, like Smotrich. You know what I mean? And Itamar Ben-Gvir. Like, these are guys that are like straight up fucking Nazis, okay? I will 100% say that. I don't give a fuck if you call that anti-Semitic. You can suck my fucking Muslim dick, okay? Suck my fucking dick. Some of those dudes are straight up fucking Nazis. Like, you can't do that. And then you have the Likud party, which is also insanely far right, okay? Insanely far right. But because it's a race to the fucking bottom, they come across as like simply far right and not like straight up Hitlerian, even though, you know, it's close. They're teetering on the edge. Okay. That's anti-Semitic, bro. look up the Jewish Power Party. Look up Itamar Ben-Gvir's background. Look up the Kahanas movement, and then come back to me and tell me what is the difference. What is the difference there? Okay? No, it's just straight Hitlerian. Okay? Straight motherfucking Hitlerian bullshit. Bro, it's so racist. Israel thought it was too racist. Like, what do you mean? These guys were considered terrorists by Israeli standards. Like, what are we talking about? I mean, yeah, exactly. You can ask Ofer Kasif what the Israeli left looks like. It's marginal. It's tiny. The problem is, of course it's going to be that way when you have delicately maintained a fascist ethno-state project for decades without any kind of pushback whatsoever from the Western world. Basically non-existent. Zipi Livni is represented as a left opinion. Yeah. Is Israel more right-wing than the U.S. when it comes to fascism? Yes. Somehow. Anyway.
Punishing an entire population for the acts of some within that population. So the way in which it's being used here is the idea that, well, Hamas is embedded with...
Well, you're making it seem like PA even want to be involved in talks. They're cool as fuck with the current situation as long as they still deem to official authority and in power. No. What I'm talking about is Arafat and what he tried to do. I'm not a person that is like... I'm not one of those people that's like Arafat is a betrayer of the Palestinian people, even though he did. But I think that he was a cunning politician that truly thought that truly in his mind, I'm not his biggest fan. I'm just simply stating that I think he legitimately thought he saw the writing on the wall. He was an opportunist, but he saw the writing on the wall and he thought anything we can get will be better than the situation that I foresee it being. That's what it is. I don't think that the problem lied with Arafat. I think it was more so Israel that dominated that conversation. Now he was cornered too when all of his trusted brothers assassinated. He wasn't bad at the start. Yeah, no, he was very popular at the start. It's just that it was every conversation, every round of negotiations was used as a way to just like push to pass the buck down the line and to never really deal with the genuine problem as Israel very openly and very deliberately expanded in the West Bank.
In the population, the civilian population within Gaza. And so that part of what Israel is doing is not just aiming specifically at those members of Hamas that are in Gaza, but by putting in place, for instance, the siege and significant targeting of infrastructure, cutting off water, cutting off food and the like, that they're engaging in what's sometimes termed collective punishment. Collective punishment is not permitted. So to the extent that what one is trying to do is actually intentionally impose harm on civilians, that's not permitted. You're not allowed to intentionally try to harm civilians in order to punish an entire population for the harm that some within it are doing. You can legitimately target those combatants. You can aim at legitimate military objects, but you can't harm an entire population just because there are some combatants located within it.
This is something you and I have talked about when we were dealing with Russia and Ukraine. It's a little bit different here because very few governments recognize Hamas as a legitimate government or an organization. Even the Palestinian Authority doesn't really recognize Hamas as the government of Gaza. How does that play into this discussion of violations of international humanitarian law or, in the case of possible war crimes prosecutions?
Yeah, you're right about that. That does make this quite complicated. In fact, generally the status of Gaza makes this all quite complicated. And among international lawyers, people are talking about, is this occupied territory? Is it occupied by Israel, even though Israel doesn't actually exercise effective control, but they contain the ability, the ingress and egress from Gaza, and therefore that might be enough to make it occupied territory. And
it is. No, she's right. She's talking... Chat. She's speaking legalese, okay? That's not her own perspective. She's talking legalese, all right? It's a different language. Chill. She's right.
And then there's this question of who is it exactly that Israel is going to war against? Is it going to war against Hamas, in which case this is what we would call a non-international armed conflict? Or is it waging war on Palestine, which, again, about 130 states recognized, not including the United States and Israel. And so there's this question, is this an international armed conflict, or is it just a non-international armed conflict? That makes some differences on the margins, I will say. It does make some differences about exactly what the obligations are that Israel has towards the citizens in Gaza.
God damn, bro. Twitter, come on. Suck my dick,
It
Twitter.
doesn't change the bottom line. The bottom line is that even if it's a non-international armed
God, I hate Elon Musk so much.
conflict, even if this is a war between Israel and Hamas, which is a organized non-state actor, there are basic principles that apply. The basic principle of distinction, of requiring.
No, chatter. It's not my fucking internet. It's literally because it's a 13-minute video, and Twitter does not know how to compress video because it's a multi-billion-dollar social media platform that's currently being run with a skeleton crew led by an absolute fucking madman.
Requirement of distinguishing between civilians and combatants, the requirements of proportionality, that when you're aiming at a military.
Inshallah, one day Hezbollah will come and take over Los Angeles so we also can have fiber internet, just like Hezbollah has fiber internet in Lebanon. Inshallah, brothers, one day.
Object, you can't unnecessarily and egregiously affect civilians or civilian objects. Those basic rules apply regardless.
I will succumb to the Shia rule, okay? It's fine.
And those, I think, are really what we need to be focusing on.
I mentioned the Nuremberg trials earlier and how that was one of the things that shaped our understanding of war crimes today. There were no prosecutions held for the dropping of atomic weapons on Japan. What's the distinction there? Because lots and lots of innocent non-combatants died in Japan. The argument was these innocent people die so that fewer innocent people die in the future. How does that fit into this whole discussion?
Well, there's some robust debates among scholars as to whether if that took place today, would it be a clear violation of the Geneva Conventions? And I think most people think it almost certainly would be, particularly the context in which those decisions were made. That's a context.
Chat, that's unironically the argument. Chat, hearing for the first time why America dropped the nukes or why they claim they dropped the nukes in utter shock is hilarious. The difference between what is a war crime and what is not is whether or not America did it, okay? Or America's extension, Israel. What? Oh my God.
In which you ultimately have to weigh the military object. So what is it that you're attempting to achieve? And then what legitimately can...
By the way, America's handling of Japanese civilians is actually verbatim the Israeli policy. They engaged in a ruthless firebombing campaign on Japan, okay, where they not only destroyed thousands of civilians' lives, but they destroyed thousands of buildings and infrastructure, like civilian infrastructure. And then they dropped not one, but 2 nukes. And their argument was, we had the nuke because the firebombing would be worse if we kept doing firebombing. Motherfucker, you're the one who did the firebombing. Like, what do you mean? What the fuck are you saying? You did the firebombing, and then instead of stopping it, you literally said the best way to stop this firebombing is just by, killing 100,000. Which is exactly the same shit Israel does all the fucking time, dude. It's the classic, like, they didn't get out of the way. Sorry.
What kind of harm can you inflict on civilian population in order to achieve that military objective? I think there's some parallels here in that Israel sees this as an existential threat. They see this war as really about their ability to exist and defend themselves. And that is why it appears they seem to be willing to accept much more significant civilian harm than typically would be the case in this kind of a conflict. They see the military object as their actual existence.
Or, and hear me out on this, they're an incredibly racist, incredibly violent, fascist ethno-state that is maintaining an apartheid state upon 5 million Palestinian Muslims and Christians, and therefore, they're super fucking racist and don't think that their enemy is a human. I don't know. I feel like a lot of this stuff is just to utilize legalese and dance around it and be like, the rules of engagement have been lowered because this is a war for Israel's existence. Like, no, man, it's pretty simple. They don't think Palestinians are humans. They think they're all racist, rabid, anti-Jewish animals who are barbarian. And that's it. It's that simple. Because if you don't think that way, and by the way, I'm not talking about like every fucking Israeli person, okay? I mean, there's like 12 Israeli people who don't think that way, okay? I promise. Okay? The thing is, yeah, they're all in here right now. Shouts out to my Israeli leftists that are in the chat. I love you all 12 of you. You know, you guys are fucking doing the damn thing, all right? So the point is, you can't keep maintaining an apartheid state without constantly telling the population, the in-group, that those who are in the out-group deserve to be there. How do you do that? By being insanely racist, okay? That's how it fucking works. You have to be insanely racist. Otherwise, everyone's going to be like, wait, hold up. What do you mean? It's kind of fucked up. These guys have different roads? What? Wait, what? Different license plates? They got to wait at checkpoints? What's going on? Wait, you're arming the settlers to go and kill them? Hold up. That's kind of weird. The only way that you can turn a blind eye to that reality or even champion it is if there is an insane amount of fucking racist propaganda, an insane amount of racist agitated propaganda that like constantly is breaking your fucking soul. Like you become this violent entity. This is why I say supremacy, like this kind of supremacist attitude that is a necessity to maintain an apartheid state within the in-group is a really, really bad one because it breaks you. It robs you of your humanity. Okay? It is especially it's especially damning when you have to do it to your neighbors. When you do it to your neighbors on a consistent basis. Okay?
And their ability to continue to defend their population. And so they're willing to accept a broader civilian damage as a result. You might draw some parallels to the way in which the U.S. thought about the launching of nuclear weapons at the end of World War II, the importance of really bringing the war to a close, that this was seen by some as really the only way to bring the end to it. Nonetheless, I think wiping out an entire city these days would be considered not within the current rules of armed conflict.
And I'm always deeply appreciative.
Thank you for thank you for saying Israel does not have a right to wipe out an entire city as they see fit because they fucking felt like it. I want to see the Naftali Bennett conversation, honestly, because it sounds awesome. Anyway, let's get back to this fucking freak.
Of the place that has been most infiltrated by terror groups. It's unfortunate, but Hamas is not the only terror group in the region. Palestinian Islamic Jihad is an excellent example of another terrorist group that has wide presence in the West Bank, more so actually than Hamas. There's a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket, obviously, that fell on that Gaza hospital. The entire world then tried to blame on Israel.
Yeah, that was really sad, dude. It was really fucked up. I can't believe they did that. You know, oh shit, they bombed a convoy of ambulances next to the El Shifa hospital like literally 3 days ago. So like, what is the argument, man? Like, what is the argument? I want to know the Zionist argument for this. It's like, only Israel gets to kill Palestinians. If Palestinians, even by accident, kill other Palestinians, then it's wrong. It's immoral and it's wrong. Only we get to do it. Over and over again. Like, I don't even agree with him on this. I don't even agree with him on this. The whole, like, bombing the hospital shit. Like, he thinks it's a certainty because he's obviously, you know, he wants to deflect away from Israeli crimes, But even if I were to agree with him on this, like, what's the argument? One Hiroshima worth of like conventional missiles is totally valid, totally just. It's the one time the Islamic Jihad rocket that misfired. That's the fucked up part. Yeah, what are you mad that Israel's KD is lower? Like what?
Okay, I'm allowed to respond, right? Okay. So if your entire argument once again is predicated on terror groups, what response do you have about the Great March of Return, which is a very well-documented incident where peacefully Palestinian civilians just marched to their own land that they have a right to go and return?
Racism. Here you go. I'll help you. Racism. That's it. Every single argument that Ben Shapiro has is just racism. I'm not just saying that, okay? Like most Everything he says makes no fucking sense if you think Palestinians are human beings worthy of dignity, worthy of a life of freedom. It's that simple, really. I promise. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, he's written The Final Solution for Palestinians in 2003 in Town Hall. You could say that's like a long time ago, but obviously his perspective has only worsened over this time frame. Talked about how Arabs love to blow up shit and live in sewage, but Israelis love to build. Apparently, Ben didn't even know what. Wait, what?
But they were killed, shot at, and murdered in cold blood.
What year are we talking about? Which group are we talking about? I need more specificity.
I'm talking about the Great.
He doesn't know! Stop! Fuck you! Fuck you! You animal! You fucking racist animal! He's like, what year? I need specificity because I didn't hear about this because I didn't get updated on the Hasbara propaganda on this.
Great March of Return.
I know I'm asking for more specificity because I'm unaware of all the details of what you're speaking about.
So the Great March of Return is a well-documented...
This is pretty cool. He's like, I've never seen Ben Shapiro so obviously on the back foot. I've actually never seen him so fucking obviously. I need to know what year so I can find out which terror group I can blame. Yeah, no, there is no terror group involvement in that. Which he should have just done the racist argument and been like, well, they were terrorists. Here. For those of you who don't know, the Great Right of Return was every Friday, Palestinian women, children, elderly, people in fucking wheelchairs, marching to the Gaza border peacefully. It was created by a poet to protest the borders and to say that Palestinians have a right to return to their own homes. The IDF sniped, no, it's not 2014, it's 2018. The IDF snipers killed around 200 people, including children, including a famous nurse that was shot and killed, which they then turned around and edited a video to lie and act like she said that she was a human shield. They killed old ladies. They shot a pregnant woman. They wounded so many people. They wounded thousands. One IDF sniper said he would take around 42 knees a day. There are even videos of snipers shooting children, like snipers filming themselves, filming their sniper rifle scope, shooting a kid. And this, of course, was not really covered by, I guess, Israeli media, or it's not really talked about because, like, I mean, it's just objectively immoral and completely unacceptable, like way worse than the top of the hour ad break. Austin is laughing. Yeah, I'm going to give the 3-minute ad right now. I felt shame. I felt shame about that. I felt shame in my heart for that one. That was fucked up. It wasn't covered in mainstream media at all. Yes, because at the same time, lo and behold, the American embassy was being moved to Jerusalem, a cause of great celebration under the Trump administration. That's what the fuck they were covering. And the very minor coverage that was afforded to the slaughter of civilians in the hands of the IDF, which the IDF has openly taken credit for time and time again, according to internal memos, internal documents, and also even generals openly stating that we have a process of saying yes to every single shooting, like where we talk about rules of engagement every single time a sniper rifle is fired. We have every single bullet accounted for. There's an authorization process. So it was completely ruthless, completely brutal. And of course, Ben Shapiro is oblivious to it because he's a fucking donkey. He is a fucking dumbass who does not give a single fuck about the truth. He does not care about the truth. He only cares about making his fucking argument. His argument that, like, Israel is a fascist, racist, ethno-nationalist country, and it's good, and it has to exist in the way that it does, because what you would understand as a right to return and a right for dignity for all Palestinian people, which is like a liberal value, he considers a demographic nightmare. Never forget this. Every single argument you have with an ultra-Zionist will always revolve around how If you say you want a single solution, you want a single state as the only solution, they will turn around and say that a single secular, solitary state where Palestinians have a right to return is a demographic nightmare and can never be allowed. Democracy is a nightmare to those who want to maintain the apartheid state.
Documented instance where many Palestinians, after a tweet by a Palestinian, encouraged other Palestinians to go march peacefully back to their land.
Which land is theirs? What are we talking about?
Occupied Palestine.
Deflect! Dude, he doesn't know. This should be studied. Yeah, he's on the back pedal. He's very quickly trying to deflect away from a fucking student debater.
Are you talking about in proper Israel? Where are we talking about? Like which areas?
We're talking about on the borders of Palestine, and we're also talking about their right to return to Palestine.
There is no right to return. If you're talking about in Palestine, if you're talking about the land that is inside the 67 borders, there is no right of return to Haifa. There's no right of return to Tel Aviv. There's no right of return to West Jerusalem.
So you have to remember that there are many, many, many elders who are older than the...
He did it. He successfully deflected away. Now she's talking about right to return. She should have said, where were the terrorists? She should have said, where were the terrorists? And not march. It's good to know that the supposed brilliant Ben Shapiro sometimes has to deflect away like this. I'm going to be honest. I think I could clap him on Israel. Like, actually. I think many people with literally like an elementary understanding of Israel-Palestine could clap him. I'm not even kidding. I don't think you can. Really? Dude, he just got owned by like a 19-year-old who fucking asked about like a very important part of very recent Palestinian history. Are you kidding me? The fact that he didn't know what the fucking Great March to Return is like already, that means he doesn't know anything. I think we always assume that like people who portray themselves very confident online, and I don't think I'm one of those people. I think I'm very insecure. I don't think I'm very smart, and I always openly mention, like I say, all the time. Like I don't present myself in a super confident way. He will use your anger issues against you, says the Arabian Stallion. I think you've seen me debate people before, especially in issues where like I'm very confident in this. Like there is, I don't think that I would get angry. I'm very different in person. People think that I would yell at Ben Shapiro in the same way that I yell at a video. I think there's I think legitimately, it's not even just me. I think many people would be able to destroy Ben Shapiro on this issue because he's objectively in the wrong. Like, so objectively in the wrong that most liberals, when facing the reality, understand it, which is why he has to constantly maintain the idea that, like, anything that you say is anti-Semitic. Does that make sense? Because debates are not won or lost by the actual merits of the argument. If that was the case, then there would never, ever, ever be a debate because, like, there is the truth and then there's whatever the fuck charlatans claim it is, right? And in this situation, Ben Shapiro's already lost. Debates are won and lost by the audience reception. Are they receptive to your argument? Do they learn new things from the conversation? And on that front, given Israel being like a Western-facing democratic project that liberals love, without fully realizing what that entails, the liberal tendency towards at least thinking that humanitarian rules of engagement or like international rules in the international rule-based order is always violated historically and very consistently. And if the only thing you have is national security concerns, you still can't justify maintaining an apartheid state. There is no argument for it. You can't Hamas your way out of it.
The state of Israel. You have to remember that Palestine is not a Muslim land. You are equating this to a religious conflict. It's not. When Palestine, before it was occupied, you had Jews, Christians, and Muslims peacefully coexisting. Palestine is not a Muslim homeland. It's a land that existed where many people that are alive to this day are older than the state of Israel.
So are you making the argument that any population of any time, all of their descendants now have a right to go back to the place that their great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers went?
Not great-great-great-grandfather. We have grandmothers.
Okay, grandmothers, grandfathers.
Yeah, see, we're now moving away from like we moved away from the March of Return. Like, she's just basically saying like, oh, if your great 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 grandfather lived there, then you can live there too. That's ridiculous. Ironically, that is the Zionist argument. So I don't know where he's going to go here, but I just want to maintain the position that he is also like shifted the conversation entirely.
Is that the idea that you can walk across the lines of any sovereign state and simply claim the place that you said that you had, even though you never established property rights, and say the Jordanian West Bank, or you
you never established property rights, dude? That's fucking nuts.
Abandon this place in Haifa. So your claim is that right now people get to walk across the border of a
They abandoned it.
sovereign nation and simply set up shop in Haifa. This is your claim.
So so even if we were to buy what you're saying, which is obviously not true, I encourage you to Google about the Great March of Return, which was a peaceful resistance against a wrongful occupation of Palestine. Even if you were to buy what you were
Can you just define wrongful occupation? Which part of Palestine is occupied?
You're not answering my question.
I mean, I'd like you to answer mine.
Terror groups. I gave you an example of peaceful resistance.
Yes.
I'll give you an example.
Which part of Palestine is occupied? Like, what do you mean, dude? You're the fucking smarty pants. You should figure this out, I think. Again, he's deflecting. He does not know what the Great March of Return was. Why would he know? Because it doesn't benefit him in any way. Most Americans don't know, so he doesn't have to do propaganda over it, so he hasn't established the talking points against it. This is why I'm saying it's like not that hard to debate someone like Ben Shapiro on this issue, because like I was trying to describe, debates are won and lost on rhetoric, and it's important for the audience to be more receptive to your argument. And because the facts are so completely not on his side, he has to rely on broader narratives such as Islamophobia, broader narratives such as the lie that, Israel is a democratic state, is the only democratic state. Israel is a moral army. These are all lies that he can rely on because the media has also covered his ass on this front, right? This is exactly how Israel is discussed in literature, in art, and also in mainstream media for the most part. So it's very quick and very easy work to counter this, because there are institutions that liberals broadly agree are valid, like the Human Rights Watch, like Amnesty International, like Oxfam, or like the United Nations, institutions that liberals have to care about, because in their theoretical fantasies of a rule-based international order, these are institutions that are hailed up as like proper institutions. 2021 was a major turning point for pro-Palestinian emancipation for this reason, because 2021, at the beginning of 2021, in the spring, Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch openly admitted that Israel is an apartheid state. Israel had been an apartheid state at that point for like 50 plus years, but them admitting this was a major step, because if you're having this conversation, we're not having this conversation on the basis of morality or immorality. Everyone has already established their position on this. We're having the conversation on how you can get the broader majority of squishy libs to come to terms with this reality that we are playing a very significant role in the maintenance of an apartheid state. Okay? And when you bring this up, when you openly talk about that, when Ben Shapiro claps back, for example, by saying Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, you go, you can't be a democracy when you're an apartheid state. Israel's an apartheid state. Yes or no? Is Israel an apartheid state? Ben Shapiro says no. Then you say, why do you disagree with Holocaust scholars, the Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and professionals that dedicate their entire lives to war crimes and human rights violations, that Israel is an apartheid state? How can you sit there and tell me that both Israeli activist organizations, like Israeli organizations dedicated to human rights, and numerous other former Israeli officials have declared Israel to be an apartheid state? Those who have fought and won against the South African apartheid state have always considered Israel to be an apartheid state. Why do you think your opinion is more valid in this front than all of these other people? Yes, that is an appeal to authority, because all debates, for dummies who don't know this, is about rationalizing logical fallacies. This is not debate club. This is not fucking debate club where there's like actual rules that you have to follow. This is simply having a back and forth where you're owning and ritualistically humiliating your interlocutor. That's what debates are about. Why are you arguing a fact? You can't. That's the point. You can't, like, go against it. Also, it's not even an appeal to authority. It's expertise. An appeal to authority would be to part of the appeal to authority would be to say, like, this guy's a psychologist and he says Israel's an apartheid state. That's an appeal to an authority. That's a logical fallacy. You can still engage in that, by the way, because a lot of the logical fallacies is exactly how people debate online. Their goal is not to, like, arrive at a fucking truth, no matter how hard they, like, maintain that position. Their goal is to just ritualistically humiliate their fucking opponents. That's what debates are for, because you wanna be able to throw as many talking points as possible, know exactly what your what your opposition's talking points are, and then teach your side what those talking points are and how to deal with them, while simultaneously maybe winning over, like, the people in the margins, like the people in the middle that hadn't made up their minds one way or another. That's it. So, Chomsky said this is worse than apartheid because at least in South Africa, white population needed the black population as their labor force. Yes, I know. You are anti-Semitic. He will say that the UN is anti-Semitic. He's going to answer anti-Semitism on every question because he can't answer, and then wins because he shuts down the conversation. Yes, but there is also a wonderful counter to that as well. The wonderful counter to that is what I do all the time, which is I use, what is this? No, I don't know if this is real or not, okay? Don't give me this shit. Don't send me this shit. But debate should aim to determine the truth. Man, come on, brother. I love you guys, but please, if you think that, like, debates online are to determine the truth, you are the silliest little Billy I've ever seen. Guys, Ben Shapiro is one of the best debaters online, okay? Does that mean he has ever determined the truth of a matter? No. He's just very good at overpowering his opponents. That's it. Because debates are all about rhetoric. You can have all the facts on your side. I'll give you an argument. I'll give you a hypothetical, an example in theory. Ben Shapiro goes up against a squeamish, bookish nerd who is a climate scientist. Okay? They get together. They're in front of a massive audience. The climate scientist, of course, is, talking about well-established scientific community consensus on anthropogenic climate change. Ben Shapiro, on the other hand, is technically just, spreading filth and nonsense, but doing it in a way that overpowers his opponent. Who do you think will win that argument? In most circumstances, Ben Shapiro will win that argument. In almost all circumstances, the rhetorician is going to technically win the argument. Now, in that situation, do you consider that to be a win for determining the truth? It's it. Only in, like, debate club where there's rules about what you can say and what you can do and what you can't do. Only in that circumstance can you, like, actually kind of arrive at a truth. But even then, it doesn't matter. I think the audience in your example will be a major variable. Well, the argument is going to have the 40-40-20 principle, that 40% of the audience believes in Ben Shapiro, 40% of the audience believes in the scientist, and then 20% of the audience can go in either direction. I believe personally that 20% audience is who you're going for when you're actually doing a debate, which I think is pseudo-intellectual wrestling. Yes, rhetoric is always more powerful than facts when debating. Absolutely. That's why some of the best debaters online in the debate lord community oftentimes don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And they sometimes might even go up against people who do, okay? But the people who do know what the fuck they're talking about aren't always going to be the best rhetorically. Yes, it's just about maintaining an air of intelligence and being confident. Most of the time, the most effective ways of dismantling your opponent in a debate, the most effective ways of dismantling your opponent in a debate is to simply engage in logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are rules for debate club that you cannot actually engage with, specifically because they're cheat codes. It's a cheat. If you engage in gish galloping to the broader audience that watches you, you go, oh my God, this guy's so informed. Look at him. He's just throwing facts at me one at a time. A lot of those facts can even be completely false. It could be a complete fabrication, but it doesn't matter because the audience is very receptive to you now, especially if you say it like this, especially if you maintain this like autistic posture where you're very matter of fact. You have no emotions on the matter. You're just simply spitting facts. Okay? Sorry. Facts over feelings. Oh, are you getting emotional? That means you've lost and I've won the argument. Okay? Yeah. Even if you're not autistic, just take a posture like that and you will get a 10% buff on your debate skills. So gish galloping is again not allowed technically. It's beyond the boundaries, but it doesn't matter because it's going to make you look good. Okay, it's going to make you look good to an audience. Other logical fallacies that people use. Like if I were to show you an entire list of logical fallacies right now, I can basically explain to you every single logical fallacy that Ben Shapiro uses. Okay, every single one. Appeal to authority, argument from majority, argument from consensus, bandwagon fallacy, appeal to common belief, democratic fallacy, mob appeal, appeal to nature. What are these? Here are the fallacies, the common logical fallacies. Post hoc ergo propter hoc, conclusion that assumes that if A occurred after B, then B must have caused A. Genetic fallacy, conclusion is based on an argument that the origins of a person, idea, institute, or theory determines character, nature, or worth. For example, the Volkswagen Beetle is an evil car because it was originally designed by Hitler's army. Begging the claim, the conclusion that the writer should prove is validated within the claim. Example, filthy and polluting coal should be banned. You didn't say why it should be banned. You just said simply that it's filthy and polluting. Arguing that coal pollutes the earth and thus should be banned would be logical, but the very conclusion that should be proved that coal caused enough pollution to warrant banning its use is already assumed in the claim by referring it to as filthy and polluting. These are all things that we engage in. I use them all the fucking time. This is exactly what Ben uses.
Hey, I'm Mr.
What is this, Mr. Beat? How to spot logical fallacies featuring Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro? Anyway, what is this? Ben's greatest hits? Yeah. Israelis like the belt. Arabs like the bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is not a difficult issue. Hashtag settlements rock. Good example because not all logical fallacies are necessarily wrong statements. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I never said they were. I'm simply stating that logical fallacies are a very effective way of defeating your opponent. They're like a cheat code, in my opinion, in a debate. And most people would look like a fucking buffoon if they sit there and go, that's an ad hominem. Because then you've deviated away from the argument. You've conceded ground. If someone engages you with an ad hominem attack and you go, excuse me, that's an ad hominem, only the other hyper debate perverts are going to look at that and go, that is actually an ad hominem. You're right, sir. You, my friend, have lost the argument. Most normal people are going to look at that and go, what the fuck's this nerd saying? You just got rocked, dude. You got your shit pushed. I always thought it looked pedantic because you're arguing about arguing at that point. Exactly. Which is why I always say the most effective debate lords are ones who just like weaponize all of these arguments all the fucking time. These ways of engaging in logical fallacies all the fucking time. That's it. A red herring, a diversionary tactic that avoids key issues, often by avoiding opposing arguments rather than addressing them. Example, the level of mercury in seafood may be unsafe, but what will officials do to support their families? The author switched the discussion away from the safety of the food and talks instead about an economic issue. You've never talked to someone who doesn't use this. People use this all the fucking time. How would you deal with debate lords then? I mean, the only time, off topic, but Ben Shapiro spoke at an event in my undergrad, and one of the people asking him questions called him Ben Shabibo to his face. Want the clip? No, that's fine. But I think I remember the clip because I think he also sent it in here at the time. So the point is, a smart debate lord will always utilize, or rather weaponize, logical fallacies and then try to rationalize said logical fallacies. Okay? Moral equivalence, straw man, ad populum, bandwagon, appeal. This is an appeal that presents what people or a group of people think in order to persuade one to think the same way. Getting on the bandwagon is such an instance. One of Ben's favorite arguments, I mean, he uses all of these, right? But one of Ben's favorite arguments is also, is and a lot of debate lords is actually, it's not just Ben, but like is to basically I think is it ad absurdum? No, other than Gish galloping. He loves Gish galloping too, but it's like usually hitting you with an absolutely absurd argument. Here, I'll give you the example. You say you want to increase the minimum wage to $25 an hour. Why not $1,000 an hour? Why not $10,000 an hour? Now, this is an argument from absurdity, reductio ad absurdum. Okay, this is a logical fallacy. So no one has made this argument. No one has made this claim. But Ben Shapiro turned around and basically added this argument to you, like claimed that you're doing it. It's a straw man. Like he's saying that this is your argument. And also on top of that, he's now reconstructed your argument to be one that is like ridiculous. Okay? A completely ridiculous argument. Now, how do you deal with that? If you turn around and say, I did not say that, let's talk about the facts that I presented, okay? Then Ben can very easily try and justify, if he entertains this, he can very easily justify this by claiming, well, I'm just trying to understand your moral boundaries, okay? I've heard many debate lords utilize this logical fallacy and then turn around and go, well, I'm just trying to understand your logical boundaries. No, you're not. You're not trying to set up a logical boundary. You're literally just simply moving the argument away to an entirely unproductive and ridiculous fucking a ridiculous place where like you come across in the right to the audience and I come across in the wrong. Like I just suggested something so fruitless. Raising the minimum wage from $15 an hour to $25 an hour might be perfectly rational within the bounds of reason. Raising the minimum wage from $15 an hour to $1,000 an hour will not be. This is precisely the reason why nobody made this argument. You made this argument for me. Okay? And when you talk about these sorts of things, you've already lost because you wanted to just boom, 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 throw out your facts. Just present your argument. And now you've completely moved away from your argument. Now you are in the pocket, okay? Now you're in the pocket. You're in the area that Ben wants you to be in. Away from the main argument that you made, that you actually have good standing on. You had your premises. You had your logical conclusion. But now it's gone. It's gone. We're talking about something entirely different. XQC calls this the rookie hole, okay? Another way that debate lords engage in this is, yes, discredit your opposition and everything they will say will fall on deaf ears. Technically, it has nothing to do with anything. Like you're not on trial. You're not a fucking character witness. Let's say we're having a conversation about taxes. If someone fucking turns around and says, Hassan, you're a rich socialist, by the way. Well, okay. That doesn't change anything about the argument that I made. You just basically just said I'm a rich socialist. It's true. What does this have to do with the argument that I'm making? If someone who was a poor socialist, if they made the same argument, would you all of a sudden take that more seriously? Does that change the actual dynamics of the thing that I'm presenting? Okay? I'm doing an argument course in college and my professor uses exact argument to show a logical fallacy. Exactly. You are only bringing this up because you want to discredit me, even though technically there is absolutely nothing that is like inconsistent with the way I exist from my own logical boundaries, right? But the moment that I start talking about my own logical boundaries and why actually it's perfectly permissible to be a rich socialist, I'm going against 100 years of Red Scare propaganda and a cartoonish depiction of what socialism is supposed to be. And if the broader majority only knows what socialism is supposed to be, then it might as well be the truth. And if I were to like defend myself against that, then I've lost the argument because I'm now talking about myself and not about what the original argument was, what my position is on a particular tax, let's say. Just because I hate debate perverts does not change the reality that I know how to be a debate pervert, okay? It's also part of the reason why Well, wouldn't this stuff only work on amateurs? Like any decent debater knows this stuff and can counter argument and will always come down to the facts and how informative one is on the topic, and his side seems to be on the weaker side defending apartheid. So basically he should lose every argument about the conflict versus a decent debater. Yeah, no, that's why I said he would lose the conflict against a decent debater who actually has some of the facts, not even all of them. FYI, reductio ad absurdum isn't a fallacy. You're describing slippery slope more than anything. Okay, I'm sorry. I got my... Wait, what? No, I thought... No. Is a logical argumentative technique where you refute a statement by showing where its logical conclusion leads to an absurdity. Oh, you're right. It is to disprove. What I'm describing was a slippery slope. A reductio ad absurdum definition is a logical argumentative technique where you refute a statement by showing its logical conclusion leads to an absurdity. By demonstrating that accepting a particular premise of an argument results in a ridiculous and untenable conclusion, you can argue against the validity of that argument. Infinite wealth fallacy. If everyone printed their own money, then everyone would be wealthy. However, this would render money useless. Endless free samples. If a store offered unlimited free samples of a product, then no one would ever buy the product. Yes. Whereas the argument that you're presenting in this situation is not about infinite wealth, nor is it about endless free samples. So technically, it's a straw man. It's a straw man combined with a slippery slope argument. So Chad is hilarious, calling Chatter a nerd. Chatter is a nerd. I mean, yeah, exactly. My point is, I disagree. People with facts on their side do not necessarily win debates because using debate purgatory does not rely on any of the facts and relies on fallacies. No, that's what I said. You're repeating what I'm saying. You don't need to have the facts on your side. You do not need to have facts on your side to win an argument. I'm not going to lie, when I saw the title was Secret Sunday Stream, I wasn't expecting a debate pedophilia class. I mean, it's good. It's good to talk about it. I got my debate purgatory terminology wrong, and I apologize for it. It's still useful to prevent your case, though. Who cares about what people determine as the winner? I'm telling you that this format that Ben loves only works if he can just like bully his interlocutors and humiliate them. That's why it works, because he's going up against people who are not familiar with the matter, aren't super well read on the actual talking points and can counter adequately. Okay. And therefore a skilled interlocutor, a skilled rhetorician like Ben Shapiro will fucking clap all of these people because he has like endless amounts of talking points. And it's not like there's a moderator there who's going to be like, oh, I'm docking a point from you because you used like a faulty reasoning. Recently, I debated Hamas supporter at Cambridge University, seemingly endorsed the idea of eliminating the Jewish community. Do they even know from what the river to the sea means?
I'll start by quoting one of your videos. You say, I know it's, by the way, my question is on climate change.
Okay.
You say,
thank you for...
Wait, what?
CO2
America's
emissions.
carbon emissions have been going like this, and China's carbon The world has obviously witnessed heinous attacks by...
Israel can justifiably kill everyone who defies the actions of Israel.
Wait, what? We already watched this. He didn't even say it from the river to the sea. Using Zionist images that Western people have been programmed to believe is the truth, but Arabs know they're liars, so we can destroy him. That's why he would never debate Mohammed Hijab. Oh, she says free Palestine at the end of her question?
Tanks kind of matter.
Not the
money to...
I mean, the solution for them, presumably, would be in terms of mitigating against, that seems like climate change. Which part?
I don't know. I hate this. Can you continue the hijabi, please? I want to see your own Ben Shapiro. I doubt she owns him. There's no way she owns him. He's too skilled to just like get caught on the fucking back pedal. He's too skilled to get caught on the back end. On the back foot. He will always be able to deflect and like go back to an area that he feels more comfortable arguing in.
Where people were wrongfully shot at, including children, and you still can't answer about why that's justified.
So, if again,
I keep talking about Hamas and terror groups, and you gave examples of other terror groups, even though I gave you examples of civilians who marched and were shot at. But
now you also arrive at this this secondary problem. Those who are personally invested in this are going to be understandably emotional. And this argument does not favor those who get understandably emotional because they have a personal stake in the matter. Ben also has a personal stake in the matter, but Ben is coming at this from the position of the dominant force. So for him, he has a lot more leeway to get emotional. He has a lot more bandwidth. Whereas if you are arguing against the person who is dominating you, okay, and you have to make arguments for those who are being oppressed, who are experiencing a universal wrong, and you obviously feel for those people, and maybe even they can attack you personally and say you're a terrorist supporter, then, you know, he has all the power in this situation. He doesn't have to fucking freak out at all. It's going to take a lot for him to lose his shit.
Even now, a few days ago, you had Palestinian people living in Israel proper, which is occupied Palestine, who are being shot at by farmers on in their gardens and in their farms. And those people are being able to get away with shooting them with total impunity. So why is it that
That's not true. Many of those people have been arrested. They're all currently sitting in Israeli
Wrong!
jail.
Wrong! Those people do not get arrested at all. There are two different legal standards here. Palestinians can do whatever the fuck, Israelis can do whatever the fuck they want in the West Bank. Israelis have the same rights and same liberties as Israelis living in Israel proper do. However, Palestinians do not. Palestinians right now living in occupied West Bank and in Gaza have, especially in the occupied West Bank, are dictated by military law, okay? They are treated like enemy combatants. They have certain boundaries, but they are dictated by military law. They're governed by military law in the same way that up until 1967, Palestinian citizens of Israel were governed by military law inside of Israel proper, okay? Once Israel occupied the West Bank and Gaza, then they at least gave some rights to the Palestinian citizens of Israel. Anyway, that's not true. You do not go to jail if you kill settlers. Kill settlers. If you're a settler, you do not go to jail if you kill Palestinians. Charges are pressed in only 4% of settler violence cases. I'll give you another example. Charges are not pressed even if you kill an American citizen. In most of the famous cases, whether it be 2003 Rachel Corrie in Gaza where the bulldozer fucking literally killed her deliberately, okay? The person who was driving the bulldozer did not get charged with a crime. He was found not guilty. The IDF soldier that assassinated Shireen Abu Akleh near the Jenin refugee camp, that did so violating international laws, an actual war crime, like someone who's a press person getting fucking shot and killed by a occupying military force is completely and utterly just immoral, and also on top of that, unjustifiable. He was not punished either. First, they lied and said that it wasn't actually an IDF soldier. It was actually a member of the Palestinian forces there, like the Jenin Refugee Brigade. Okay? So Ben is absolutely wrong. He's lying. He's not wrong. He's just lying. So he just responded with a lie when he said
that just shot at a Palestinian
have been arrested.
Was not arrested. I encourage you to look into this.
I did look into this morning. And can I please get one answer before you?
He's wrong. He's just fucking lying. He's absolutely lying. There are incredibly few, incredibly rare instances where anyone even gets pressed charges, okay, in settler violence cases. How can you say this? How can you even say this when a dude who recently got a position in the Israeli, I forget what his position is. A guy who literally threw a Molotov cocktail at a settlement is now sitting in a position of power in the Israeli government. I forget the name of the guy is. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up right now. I'm going to try to figure it out. What's the guy with the Molotov cocktail guy? Like, he's literally an arsonist in the West Bank. What? Oh, this guy. Yes. Thank you. This guy. Ultranationalist Zvi Sukkot, appointed head of Knesset West Bank subcommittee. Opposition lawmakers warn settlement activists will inflame tensions in the West Bank amid a wave of settler violence against Palestinians. Ultranationalist MK and radical settlement activist Zvi Sukkot was appointed Wednesday to serve as the chairman of the Knesset subcommittee for Judea and Samaria, which is, by the way, another gross distinction. It's the West Bank. under the permanent Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committees. The appointment was condemned by numerous opposition MKs, as well, members of the Knesset, as well as anti-settlement groups who pointed out that Sukkot has a long history of radicalism in the settlement movement and settler violence in the West Bank has spiked dramatically since October 7th. On the night of October 5th, Sukkot and a group of extremist settlers set up a sukkah, a temporary dwelling used during the Jewish holiday of Sukkot in the Palestinian town of Hawara after a Palestinian terrorist shot at Israelis driving through the town. Settlers and local Palestinians clashed that evening. One Palestinian was killed in subsequent confrontations, although it was unclear whether he was killed by IDF soldiers or an armed settler. Dozens of Palestinians were injured as a result of the confrontation. He was rumored to have engaged in a mosque arson, right? He was also arrested in 2010 by the police due to Shin Bet's suspicions that he was involved in the arson of a mosque in the northern West Bank, close to where he lived in the Yitzhar settlement. He was not charged over the incident, however. Sukkot was not drafted into the IDF after he said in his interview with the recruitment office that he had no trust in the military due to its participation in the evacuation of settlers from Gaza and northern West Bank settlements during the 2005 disengagement plan. He is literally unsuitable for military service for being too racist. That guy is in charge of the settlements, dude. Lo and behold, who got arrested 10 people got arrested on suspicion. The other 6 included Zvi Sukkot of Yitzhar, Eliran El-Gali of Yitzhar, and Shlomo Gilbert of Ilan Moreh, all 20 years old, were still being questioned. He denied claims are a Yitzhar resident. In December attack, graffiti was sprayed in Hebrew on the mosque wall that said, "Get ready to pay the price. We'll burn you all." Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered a 10-month lull in the permits for new settlement homes in the West Bank, not including East Jerusalem. The order followed U.S. and Palestinian calls for a total freeze in settlement building. Palestinian officials have refused to rejoin peace talks until a total freeze is imposed. All Jewish settlements in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, are illegal under international law, though Israel disputes this. So the point is that at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or free with Twitch Prime. Okay? But the other point is, if you are to claim that those who engage in acts of violence against Palestinians are always punished, you are a liar. Not only do the perpetrators rarely ever get punished, but also on top of that, those who actually resist do get punished. They get killed by the Israeli occupying force. Okay? I'm losing my fucking mind that he's just openly lying about this.
Really, because this is an interesting conversation. Which part of Israel is occupied Palestine?
All of Israel?
There we go. There we go. There we go. So what you're calling
there we go. Yeah, dude.
For is the obliteration of the state of Israel, and all of this is just...
There we go. I got you. You've fallen into my trap. You are a Jew hater. I got you. Haha. I already knew this because you were wearing a hijab. Everyone knows it is the garb of one who hates the Jews. I have destroyed you now. If he knows he lie, what does he get from it? What do you mean? Fucking the satisfaction of just like straight up destroying an Arab Muslim woman is all he wants. This is what keeps him going.
Just a cover for that. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, he just fucking hand waved her away and was like, all right, you're done. You're a Jew hater. Boom. Fucking owned, dude. Got it. She literally, dude. She said, there are no legal repercussions for settlers who fucking kill Palestinians in occupied West Bank. Ben said, yes, there are. Lied. Okay. Just an abject lie. Literally, people in Israel will tell you that that is wrong. Okay. Because Ben isn't just a right winger. He is like to the right of the Israeli government too. And then he turned around. What part of Israel is occupied? She said, all of Israel. And he goes, okay, you want all Jews to die. Bye-bye. Moving on. Ridiculous.
In a 5-star hotel in Qatar, while his people are millions of passionate to call for the
fund. Say thank you for coming to speak at the Oxford Union this evening. It's a real pleasure. I'm a theology student myself, and I was wondering, how do you reconcile your conservative political views?
Say into the microphone.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile your conservative political views with the religious values of compassion and your own Jewish faith? And your stance on the Israeli-Palestine war?
I don't see why it's uncompassionate to call for the overthrow of Hamas, a terrorist group in the Gaza Strip, which has been oppressing its people and stealing billions of dollars.
Dude, it's like literally just a fucking brrrr. I think it's compassionate to kill every... Like, no one said that, okay? No one is saying that. You're saying that. it's not compassionate to, first of all, I am not the best at like Judaism or theology, okay? I'm not by any means an expert, but according to the Neturei Karta at the very least, and many Orthodox Jews originally before the Zionist movement became so broadly popular and accepted, plenty of religious Jews said, the fuck do you mean? We're not supposed to have a nation state. That is actually antithetical to what the Torah says. We have to wait for the Messiah. It's one interpretation that still holds, at least in the minds of the Neturei Karta, and some of the other Orthodox Jewish communities that are anti-Zionist. So obviously, if you want a religious interpretation, like there are definitely plenty of religious justifications to why Israel is not allowed. Theodor Herzl himself, yes, you are correct, was a secular Jew. He just simply used Judaism as a mythos to try and make Zionism more popular. Has this guy ever debated non-college students? I don't know if he's ever debated a non-college student in this situation.
From its own people. Ismail Haniyeh is living in a 5-star hotel in Qatar while his people are living in absolute misery.
That's crazy, man. Then deal with that guy, you know? That's great. Okay, that's great. That seems like a political problem, right? It seems like a political problem that should be dealt with politically, not by fucking, like, this is a great argument. He's like, Ismail Haniyeh is living in a 5-star hotel in Qatar. Okay. So killing 10,000 Palestinians is not doing shit to that, is it? So why do you have to kill 10,000 Palestinians? Ben Shapiro debated a world-famous pro-Palestinian activist recently. Okay, dude. Okay.
Operation with the military objective.
They did not debate, brother. This was not a debate. This was a suckfest.
Because of a war that he initiated by killing 1,500 people inside Israel proper and then taking 233 hostages. I don't see why that's non-compassionate. It seems to me that compassion also requires that you obliterate terrorist threats to your own population.
Obliterate! Yeah. Hypothetically, let's say I'm compassionately obliterating my enemies, making their babies bleed, making their babies scream. Compassionately, of course.
Okay. I'll go to the member with your hand.
Can you all hear me? All right, what about now?
Bro, this is crazy.
Good to see you. I've been watching you since 2015. You started my conservative journey, and
they also never mentioned that he's actually in Qatar because the U.S. asked Doha to host Hamas. If people don't understand how far to the right Ben is on this issue, he literally called out Tucker Carlson for not being genocidal enough. Well, Tucker Carlson is a little bit anti-Semitic. Not even a little bit. Tucker Carlson is anti-Semitic. So I think he says like anti-Israel shit from time to time so that he can get like pot shots off at Jews. So I don't even know why I said a little anti-Semitic. I mean, he is anti-Semitic. I don't think Tucker Carlson is pro-Palestine because that would require him to side. Like, that would require him to side with Arabs, who he fucking hates more than he hates Jews, I think. Like, for a lot of white nationalists, they have these two conflicting thoughts inside of them right now in this moment. Do they rise to the occasion and utilize the anti-Israel sentiment to sneak in anti-Semitic rhetoric? Or do they let Israel continue its ethnic cleansing campaign because they fucking hate Muslims? So basically, depending on what kind of white nationalist you are, inside of you, there are two wolves, exactly, chatter. The anti-Semitic wolf and the Islamophobic wolf, right? So now these are competing. And depending on how much you believe the anti-Semitic conspiracies yourself personally, hinges on how hard you'll go against Israel if you're a white nationalist. Like, I think that a lot of the anti-Israel anti-Semites are straight up firm believers that like Jews do literally control the media and stuff. So they think like they have to believe it. They must believe it. And that's why they have to hate Jewish people more than they hate Muslims. And that's why they go out of their way. Go back to your own country. You have no idea what you're talking about. Ben Shapiro knows more about the situation. The only thing you know about is how to deliver the top of the hour every hour. I already ran it, chatter. But good one. The average white nationalist definitely hates Muslims more than Jews. Yes. A lot of white nationalists are Zionists. as well. Remember, a lot of white nationalists, anti-Semites are Zionists themselves because they think that, like, you know, for theological Armageddon reasons, right? As I've talked about time and time again.
I saw, unfortunately, you had to bring some pretty gruesome photos, and I have to say I hope those photos aren't real, and I have my doubts because recently you posted an AI-generated image of a...
This is 100% a Groyper. He said he's been a Ben Shapiro fan who started him off in his conservatism journey in 2015. This kid is a Nazi. Dude, 100%. He won Hundo P, used to watch Ben Shapiro in 2015, and he went on a fucking journey and became a Nazi.
A charred infant corpse.
Yeah, let's see how fast before he mentions USS Liberty. Let's see.
No, I didn't. That is a lie. That is untrue. It was not an AI photo. It was not an AI photo.
That dude for sure in here calling you Hamas piker right now. Yeah. He's on forums online being like, dude, Hassan is literally Hamas. He's a Hamas supporter.
It was distributed by the Israeli government and the Prime Minister of Israel. It was verified by the United States government. That fake community note that said that it was an AI-generated photo was in fact taken down by Twitter because it was a fake community note. That is unfortunately not an AI-generated photo. I wish it were. It was a baby.
He's citing the Hinkle. Yeah, the kid got hinkled.
Obliterated beyond recognition because it had been burned to death.
So is it the word of the IDF in Israel versus the word of...
No, actually, it's the photo. It's the actual camera footage taken by GoPro cameras by Hamas terrorists as they invaded Israel proper. I don't have to take Israel's word for it. A lot of this stuff was live streamed.
You should ask him, was the baby burning live stream? Because it wasn't. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I do believe that babies were ruthlessly murdered. Okay, I do.
So to what extent, as you're posting to social media...
Why am I giving the fucking Groyper talking points?
Are you willing to make sure the information you're posting is accurate, to not exchange a truth for giving aid to Israel?
God, this is such a bad argument. Oh, God. Oh, this dude 100% thought this was going to go way differently in his head. Yeah.
I'm certainly doing my damn best. And there's a lot of information flowing around. I'm doing my...
Why don't you care about Graham Norton? The fuck? What? Graham Norton? The fuck is Graham Norton?
On that one, for sure, 100%. It is a lie that is an AI-generated photo.
I think he's literally being kitty glove with this guy because he diffused him by... He literally fucking hit him with the I'm your fan since 2015. So he's like not going fucking atomic nuclear bomb on him.
That is not true.
Why he debating children? That's what he does all the time.
In any way, shape, or form. And it shows how it does show how we live in a very dangerous era where anybody can, I mean, this is how.
What is this Israel proper talk? It's one that I use to make this designation of like areas that is not the Gaza areas is not the Gaza Strip, and areas that are not the West Bank, where Palestinians live broadly. That's what I consider Israel proper. A lot of people can use it because it's important to make this designation.
Happening on a routine basis. You're seeing, for example, some of the pictures. They're horrible pictures coming out from Gaza, and a huge number of those are, of course, absolutely real. You're also seeing people who are repurposing pictures that are taken from Syria and then saying those are happening in Gaza. So, yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of information that's floating around that is hard to kind of lock down and verify. That picture is 100% real, unfortunately.
I sympathize with you because as AI gets more advanced, it becomes increasingly hard to discern information. So I know you bear a lot of...
I mean, this is going to be a serious problem as time goes on. Seriously, like the flow of information is going to be...
Dude, notice how this kid literally hit him with the, why did you post a fake photo? And Ben is like so receptive to him still because all he had to say was, I'm a fan of yours since 2015. And also, he's not wearing a hijab. So there's that too. Like, Ben was infinitely more ruthless to the student who was wearing a hijab than he is to this fucking kid because he said he's a dick rider.
More and more uncertain because of that. That I agree with on a general level.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Damn, he got fucking pushed and...
Awesome. Hi. If Israel is justified in killing civilians because of the acts of terror committed by Hamas, why isn't Hamas justified in doing what it did? Because Israel is keeping 13,000 children. It has tried them in military courts. Since the establishment of Israel, 55,000 Palestinian homes have been bulldozed. So why isn't Hamas justified in doing what it did if we use your logic?
So, are you ready? I know what he's going to do. Cracks knuckles, goes, it's genocide time. Pushes glasses to the brow ridge, cracks knuckles, goes, it's genocide time. Okay? So, the real answer is, because they're Arab, and therefore they're terrorists, and therefore they're not real human beings by my assessment. But that's the real motivating reason as to why Ben feels that way. However, what he's going to say now is Israel's the most moral army on the planet, and when Israel attacks Gaza, it's actually not attacking Gaza, it's attacking Hamas targets. Hamas is the one who's doing war crimes by hiding behind civilian population when they're sending rockets in the direction of Israel. Okay? Therefore, what Israel is doing could never be equivalent to what Hamas has done. Hamas is killing people indiscriminately. Hamas is a rape gang of violent thugs, and they're barbaric, and they went into Israel because they wanted to do rapes and behead babies. Whereas when IDF beheads babies, they do it in a cool way, with a rocket, with a Mark 84 bomb, with guided munitions. That's way sicker and totally justified. And moral also.
Well, so I'm going to answer your question, then I'm going to ask you a question if you don't mind. Is that all right? So so my answer is that Israel would not be justified in killing Palestinian civilians because of the actions of terrorists. Israel would be justified in attempting to kill terrorists, and civilian casualties are a cost of war.
Okay, so are Israeli civilian casualties on a cost of war in a violent emancipatory action then? Because here's the thing. While I personally think it's ridiculous to literally look at a militant faction under occupation and its actions and then compare them to a militant state that is engaging in the occupation, that is an apartheid state, that is a fucking nuke, we can't even get Hamas and Israel to sit on the same moral standards. I don't know why, like, the same fucking standards cannot exist for these two, let's say, militant entities. It blows my mind. It blows my fucking mind. Because if they exist on the same moral playing field, then because he has to justify what IDF is doing, then automatically he has to say, okay, well, those are civilian casualties in the acts that Hamas engaged in. Because people always fucking use, like, Hamas's dog shit fucking missiles. Okay? Like, oh, Hamas is sending, thousands of missiles into Israel. It's like, okay, dog, give them guided munitions then, so they can only fucking hit military targets. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, you think they want to kill random civilians and not military targets? What are you, fucking crazy? Give them a fucking JDAM Mark 84 rocket, let it fly, and see where they hit. If they use those rockets to hit civilian targets, then we can have a conversation about how maybe they're not the most moral army. But even then, they would still be on the IDF playing field. They would get to the IDF playing field if you gave them guided munitions. Of course, Hamas wants to hit civilian targets, question mark. The fuck do you mean? What do you mean? We don't even know. You don't know that, and neither do I. You want to know why? Because they don't have guided munitions. What? They don't. And even if they did, okay, even if they weren't lobbing like fucking backyard bootleg bathtub missiles into Israel, okay, into fucking Israel, even if they didn't have that, and they did actually have guided munitions and they fucking hit civilian targets, then they would literally reach Israel's level of immorality. Because just like Israel, since October 7th, Hamas did deliberately kill, or Hamas militants did deliberately kill and target civilians. So does fucking Israel. So even if we were, do you understand what I'm trying to say? They're both war crimes, except one is a war crime committed by a militia that is not a standing army with fucking rules of engagement, okay, against an occupying state. You're full of hate. I feel bad for your mom. I'm not full of hate at all. Wait, why do you feel bad for my mom? My mother loves me. Thank you very much. Your mother loves me too, as a matter of fact. Like, guys. understand what I'm trying to say, okay? Please. This is very important. This is very important to try to understand what I'm trying to say here, okay? Targeting civilians is a war crime. Unjustifiable. I agree. Which is why I condemn Hamas, okay? We're in agreement there. But the other side does not condemn the IDF because they do not hold the IDF to the same standards that they hold a fucking militant group that is violently retaliating to an apartheid state. Do you understand? It's fucking ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. One is a militarized state that is an occupying force on 5 million civilians, okay? 5 million Palestinians, both in Gaza and also in the West Bank. The idea that, like, we are holding a militant group comprised of, like, orphaned 18, 19, 20-year-olds that behaved like a roving gang once they accomplished a military objective far beyond their scope of imagination and engaged in brutal, barbaric acts. And they certainly did, okay? The idea that we hold them to a higher standard than the motherfucking Israeli state is mind-boggling. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. What are we doing? Really? Like, those guys are supposed to be the most moral army, but Israel, on the other hand, who we claim is the most moral army, accidentally keeps killing fucking civilians, even though Hamas doesn't have a fucking registry of every single Israeli living in Israel proper. Israel does. They have the registry, the population registry of every single Palestinian living in Gaza. That's why they fucking call them up before blowing up their houses. That's why when they blow up a journalist's house, it's extra fucked up. Because you know that shit's not an accident. You know that shit is by design. You know that's fucking targeted. They know where every fucking Palestinian lives in the Gaza Strip. And they blow their shit up on purpose. They have guided munitions and they blow civilians up on purpose. They have superior firepower and they kill civilians on purpose. 3,000 plus children have been ruthlessly slaughtered. God, you are so bad faith. It sucks that you at least have some semblance of morality inside of you that is eating away at your core, that when faced with facts, you go, you must be bad faith. Because if I listen to what you have to say and you know, look at it with an ounce of charitability, that goes against everything that I've believed my entire life, and it makes me feel bad. Okay? That's it. That's the point. So is operating out of civilian infrastructure is a moot point. The IDF operates out of civilian infrastructure as well. All fucking Israeli citizens are technically military. Like 50% of women in Israel served in the military. Okay? By international standards, there's mandatory service. So they're enemy combatants? Really? They're more enemy combatants than fucking every random Palestinian in Gaza. There's mandatory service. Go ahead. Go ahead. Explain it to me. There's mandatory service in Israel. You can make a legal argument that the assumption that most Israeli adults are enemy combatants because of their mandatory military service, that they could be called into fucking active duty any given moment, technically declares a certain group, an entire group of people in a certain age range to be enemy combatants. My question to you literally is, unironically, to simply hold a nuclear state, like a state with a nuke, to the same standards that you would hold a violent militant group. Okay? Just that. And those who defend Israel can't even do that. That's why this conversation is fucking ridiculous. What would you reply to this? Genocide is defined in 1091 and includes violent acts with a specific intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. There is federal jurisdiction if the offense is committed within the United States. There's also federal extraterritorial jurisdiction. Wait, what do you mean? Yeah, Israel fits this standard. Yeah, by the way, this dude has no response to what I just said. Article 2. In the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts: killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Israel shutting off water, food, and energy into Gaza falls under this standard completely. I agree with you on standards, but I don't think it's accurate to say that Hamas didn't plan to kill civilians, take hostages if it had the chance, even if I agree that Hamas did not expect this operation to be so successful. No, dude. Of course, there were people that were fucking literally spraying bus stops and shit. I'm not saying that they did not in any way, shape, or form. None of the fucking militants in any way, shape, or form didn't want to kill whoever the fuck they could kill. What do you mean? I'm asking the IDF to hold itself to the same standards that we are holding Hamas to. Yes, I agree with you on that. And you can absolutely make an argument as to why one side's standards should be lowered, and that side is not fucking Israel, okay? Like, the idea that those who are fighting against, and not in an honorable way, okay? In a dishonorable way, but still fighting against an unjust military occupation and apartheid state are held to the same standards of those who are engaging in the maintenance of said apartheid state is one that has never historically happened. Once the actual, once all is said and done and there's an international tribunal, they will not be held to the same standard. I'm just letting you guys know. My point was the argument to give Hamas precision weapons isn't an effective one. No, that is obviously we're not giving Hamas precision weapons, my friend. I'm simply stating that we don't even know what they would do if they had precision weapons because they do not have precision weapons. And the reason why their indiscriminate bombing campaign into Israel proper, which by the way 90% of it is intercepted regardless by the Iron Dome, is indiscriminate because they're fucking they're goddamn bathtub rockets and not fucking precision guided munitions. If they had precision guided munitions and then they still were like targeting schools and still targeting hospitals and still targeting ambulances inside of Israel, okay? If they were doing all of that with their air force and their artillery and actually ending up killing people inside of Israel, they would now officially have at least reached the level that Israel is at. And even then, there's still more room to go because Israel also has their fucking entire population records. You understand? Is that for me? Wow. Davide brought another gift, huh? This man. Thank you. Thank you. I love these. Anyway, so these are things to consider in this argument. If Hamas was the government of a true nation state in the same way that Israel is recognized as, was Israel called the attack a terrorist attack or an act of war? Also, what is the IDF defense when they keep launching rockets at civilians in Lebanon? They're asking for it, and they're Arab and Hezbollah. That's the argument. Anyway, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction or in whole or in part. Israel definitely fits the legal definition. Hamas supports genocide but doesn't have the capacity. Israel has the capacity but not the intention is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This is just cope.
Talk about genocide and ethnic cleansing because they're different and they have their own definitions. So what is genocide? First off, genocide is one of the 4 core crimes.
I don't care about this. We'll do it later. Let's go back to Ben Shabibo. Why not call for the abolition of the terrorist state of Israel? Palestinians and Israelis can't live in a single state of Palestine. Wait, what? What are you saying? I've literally talked about having a single state. What the fuck do you think that is? Yes, Israel cannot be an apartheid state. Israel cannot be a Jewish ethno-state. Can't turn around and go, well, all these other Arab countries have their own ethno-state. Why can't the Jews? Like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You can be a secular state with more Jewish people living in it as long as you allow a right to return to the Palestinians. But it's fucked up. It's fucking ridiculous. I hecking love arguing semantics of genocide and ethnic cleansing while people are being killed at a crazy rate. Yeah. How is Israel supposed to eliminate Hamas if their leader is in Qatar? This is another proof that the war is not about Hamas, but the fact that they're threatening to destroy a whole of Lebanon shows its barbaric nature. Yes. All right, let's get back to this.
That is just a reality of life. During World War II, there were 70,000 Brits who died during the Blitz bombing, and there were 2 million Germans who died, civilians who died during World War II. And I don't see a lot of monuments in Britain because of the 2 million civilians who died in Germany. The costs of war are brutal. They're terrible.
I like that what we did was so fucking ruthless that, like, it is probably the most, like, indefensible part of World War II. One that, like, Howard Zinn and Kurt Vonnegut, who have personally talked about, and how it was, like, a radicalizing moment for both of them in different directions. And that we also set the standards after World War II because it was so fucked up. And he literally is still, like, he's still, like, there's so many totally acceptable moments of carnage in World War II, okay? I love World War II. I watch a fuck ton of World War II documentaries. It's my favorite, okay? It's great. It's like, it fuels me with passion. It makes me happy to see Nazis get fucking destroyed, okay? Straight up. It was brutal. It was ruthless. The barbarity is obvious, okay? But it was a just cause. To compare attacking the Nazi machine that was a militarized state with bombing your concentration camp because there's 35,000 militants amongst the densely populated civilians is a psychotic argument. And it's just ridiculous. Completely ridiculous.
They're horrifying. There's a vast difference in moral scope between deliberately going into a civilian area and murdering everyone you can find and trying to kill a terrorist who is deliberately hiding beneath a civilian area, hiding their rockets in civilian areas, starving their own people. There is a vast difference. Okay, so now I get to ask my question, if you don't mind. So my question is, do you believe that there is...
No, there is no... Wait, what? Vast difference? Like, he's just saying, like, Hamas is indiscriminately killing civilians, whereas Israel is discriminately killing civilians. Okay, one's a militant group resisting an apartheid regime in a barbaric way, certainly. The other one is the apartheid regime, but they're discriminately killing civilians. How do you fucking leave this... How do you leave this conversation thinking like, oh yeah, no, the nuclear state is actually in the right? Unless there's a super secret third premise that's hidden. And that third secret premise that no one is really discussing is just kind of out there in the ether. Okay? It's just kind of flying around. And that third secret premise is that Arabs are not real humans. Like the Palestinians are not humans in this equation, whereas the Israelis are. That's it. That secret, racism. It's always racism.
There is a moral difference between Hamas going into, for example, Kfar Aza and murdering entire families, and Israel attempting to target terrorists and accidentally hitting civilians.
Israel is effectively doing the same because Gaza is the most densely populated region in the world. There are 15,000 people per square mile.
So does Hamas get immunity because they're there? So Hamas gets immunity. So
Israel has killed 3,500 children in the past 3 weeks. That's more children. That's more children than have died in conflicts around the world in each of the last 4 years.
So just to be clear, your logic is that if you're a terrorist group located in a densely populated community and you hide behind civilians, you're now immune.
Where are the children meant to go?
So you're immune. Okay. That's a violation of the Geneva Conventions, but okay. You're now immune. Your logic is that...
What do you mean you're immune? No. Asking for the same standard doesn't mean that you're immune. What the fuck? He literally is just saying, I have to shoot through these babies. Like, I have to shoot through these babies. You can't say that's a violation of the Geneva Conventions when you're talking about fucking Hamas, while simultaneously, when you're called into question about defending the acts of the IDF, you go, fuck the Geneva Conventions. You can't do that. I've heard him literally say, the Geneva Conventions.
You're a Hamas terrorist.
Sorry, since 2005, 23 out of every 24 conflict deaths have been Palestinian. I don't see any moral equivalency there. It's clearly unjust what the IDF has been doing to the Palestinians because there's a vast disparity between the number of Palestinians being killed and the number of Israelis.
I mean, I would certainly hope that Israel is killing more Hamas
This isn't
members.
A conflict.
Wait, I would certainly hope that Israel's killing more Hamas? Dude, look how fast and loose he plays with Palestinian and Hamas. No, Ben, that's racism. And you did it. Except because a lot of people are racist, they don't recognize it. They go, yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, there it is. That's the distinction. I would certainly hope that Israel's killing more Hamas. No, she said Israel's killing more Palestinians. You said they're Hamas. You're also personally admitting that you can't kill Hamas without killing civilians, and that is an acceptable casualty. It's not. And the reason why you can't kill Hamas without killing civilians, unlike in prior sieges where at the very least civilian casualties are not as excessive, like if we're talking about Raqqa or if we're talking about Fallujah, where even then there's like a tremendous number of civilian casualties, but still nowhere near as bad as Gaza, is because America doesn't maintain or did not maintain Fallujah as its own concentration camp that they wouldn't allow civilians to leave. That's the fucking difference. Do you get it? Well, he doesn't. Do you understand? He didn't misspoke. He's just saying every Palestinian killed is Hamas. Yeah.
This isn't a conflict. This is one-sided ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, why hasn't the IDF posted their W's if they're wiping out Hamas? I haven't heard a single name drop after 4 weeks. There's like a couple militants, like low-level militants that they fucking clapped. But it's weird. I would go so far as say they've killed more militants, as far as I understand it, in fucking Lebanon, 120 plus so far in Lebanon. More Hezbollah people have been killed by Israel than fucking high-level Hamas officials. They've killed more journalists than they've killed like high-level Hamas militants, it seems. Like, what the fuck's going on? They have killed more hostages than they've killed Hamas officials for sure.
Again, I'm just asking you, if based on the numbers, more Germans died than Brits in World War II, did that mean that the British were wrong in World War II? Because they did. Many more Germans died than Brits. Based on the numbers, does that mean that Britain was wrong?
Yeah. Here's the problem. Here's the issue. Germans killed way more people than the British did in general, okay? And that's the reason why it was permissible, at least at the time, to engage in these mass bombing campaigns. No, we're not talking about India. We're talking specifically from the lens of this conflict, okay? The reason why you can't, we're specifically talking about World War II. The reason why you can't make this equivalence is because the militarized state, the machine of death and destruction in this circumstance, is not the fucking militant group. It's the nuclear state. So a comparison here quite literally does not favor your argument. It favors the argument that Israel is closely resembling the actions of Nazi Germany in this argument. Okay? You can't October 7 your way out of this. Because while October 7 is a particularly brutal, if not the most brutal retaliation, when you calculate the 75 years of occupation and war, but specifically the 56 years of occupation, direct occupation, okay, the death toll and the way that those murders have been committed does not favor your argument at all. That's it.
In World War II.
Britain wasn't bombing civilians.
That's not true. They were.
There's a clear difference.
You should talk to the people in Dresden, but you can't because they're dead.
There's a clear difference.
The argument here should be, did Britain have the population registry of every single person living in Dresden and deliberately fucking bomb them with guided munitions? Oh, wait, no, they didn't, because 1, it was not occupied British territory. 2, they did not have the population registry of Dresden. And 3, they did not have guided munitions. Okay? And 4, they were fighting against a militarized death machine. The militarized death machine in this circumstance is Israel, not Hamas. Also, Bomber Harris, chief of the RAF's bombing campaign, was disgraced for what was retroactively identified as war crimes, so Ben's argument has no foundation from the get-go. Dresden, 10,000% was military targets. Lamau, man. No, there's definitely the civilian casualties in Germany was tremendous. It is probably the most contentious part of World War II. Why do you argue with the most contentious part of World War II? Unless you want to make an argument, you have no leg to stand on, so you try to invoke some semblance of morality from the one time from the one fucking time that you think it's like totally valid to do something that is incredibly violent. Same with the firebombing of Tokyo and the firebombing of Japan and also nuking Japan. Okay? There is no morality in bombing civilians. That's crazy. It's so crazy. We literally fucking made rules of engagement for it after the fact. I don't know why people say this.
Difference. Well, I agree that war is horrible, but this is not a just war. What Israel is doing is not a just war. There is a difference between fighting the Nazis.
So it is not a just war.
Fighting the Nazis.
It is not a just war when you fight a war against people who murder 1,500 of your civilians and take 233.
Yeah, yeah, I'll say it. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. 100%. It's not. Yeah, when you're the militarized state, when you're an apartheid state, okay, when you're an apartheid state that is occupying this territory, yeah, no, it's not just at all. What the fuck do you mean? You're literally you've killed 10,000 civilians. Like, what? That's insane. And the argument is Israel should let Hamas do whatever they want. No, the argument is that you cannot deal with Hamas through violent means. This is a reality that every single person fucking understands. Okay? The only people that refuse to reckon with this reality are those who cynically want to hide their ethnic cleansing campaign and their permanent annexation of parts of Gaza. Please, you can't deal with Hamas through nonviolent means, though. Please read a singular book on the matter to come to the conclusion that Hamas is an invention of, and I don't mean like the classic Israel paid for Hamas to be more powerful or whatever. Hamas is completely the fault of Israel, not because it was originally funded by Mossad or anything like that, okay? It is completely the fault of Israel because of its increasingly violent means of maintaining an apartheid state, okay? What terrorist group was stopped with nonviolence? ANC, IRA, every terrorist group that has fought against colonial occupation has been stopped with nonviolence. There has never been an instance where a terror group has been stopped permanently through violence. You are wrong. You have always been wrong, and you are wrong on this one too. ANC in South Africa, IRA in Ireland, militant groups in Algeria. The only time Viet Cong, FLN in Algeria, Viet Cong in Vietnam. Al-Qaeda was stopped with violence. ANC is a good example, though. You're wrong. Al-Qaeda was not stopped with violence. Al-Qaeda still operates. We arm Al-Qaeda right now. We have been arming Al-Qaeda because Al-Qaeda is a Saudi invention. And we literally currently arm Al-Qaeda in Yemen. Or, well, I guess that's been scaled back. Viet Cong, ANC, and the IRA were not stopped. They won. The fuck? Okay. Great example. There you go. They won. Exactly. How did they win? Because the occupying force retreated. The occupying force retreated. The ANC, again, Hamas winning is genocide, methinks. No, you think's wrong. The Taliban won as well. So how did that work? They were not stopped in any way. You're admitting that I'm right. And also, Hamas winning is genocide, methinks, is a silly argument because you know what's genocide? What Israel is doing right now. Ultimately, militancy is no longer a necessity in post-colonial movements once the colonial apparatus is dismantled, historically speaking, okay? Hamas is something you have to deal with politically, not through violent means. And you don't need to go that far to understand this. You want to know why? One, because their leadership is not even in fucking Gaza, so that's number one. And two, more importantly, perhaps, look to every single other siege that Israel is engaged in, okay? You can tell this person is a burden to have a conversation with to everyone in their life. Yeah, he said, methinks. If you check the citation, Ben includes 500 soldiers and the number of 1,500 civilians, the opposite of a civilian, for fuck's sake. It doesn't matter. Okay, 500 soldiers and then what? 1,000 civilians. It's still not appropriate. The white genocide in South Africa after the ANC victory was wild, right? Oh, wait, that never happened. I mean, oh, God, don't bring in the fucking white nationalists in here. They're going to start fucking crying about white genocide. Are you going to go over this, brother? I would like to know your thoughts. What? As the only Jewish member of Michigan's congressional delegation, I have reached out to work Arab and Muslim constituents who I know are feeling fear and anguish right now, and I've tried to reflect that empathy on my approach to this crisis. I ask the same of Representative Rashida. The phrase from the river to the sea is one of division. and violence. It is counterproductive. Yeah, dude, I don't care. I'm sorry. This is completely fucking ridiculous, dude. Sorry. You said free Palestine, and that scares me because I misunderstand it, and I think that it means like I've come up with a new. I know you're Palestinian, okay, but I don't trust your argument for what you are saying is how you get emancipation. I think it's a different secret thing that I decided. So all of a sudden, you have to abide by my understanding of your own emancipatory slogan. The fuck do you mean? It's a dog whistle? Yeah, if you're a racist piece of shit, yeah, it is a dog whistle. Anything is a dog whistle. Hamas says free Palestine. That actually, methinks, is also genocidal. Sorry, methinks that's genocidal. So you have to abide by my standards. Like, get the fuck out of here. Can you devil's advocate this argument? What do you mean? You want me to steel man from the river to the sea being genocidal? Is that what you want? I mean, I can do that. It's a dog whistle the way BLM was a dog whistle to racists. Yes, the problem is, in this circumstance, like, claiming that, like, all Jewish people are afraid of from the river to the sea is already a misnomer. It's not true. Jewish people say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's a dog whistle in the same way that dumb diabetic Amerifats think Allahu Akbar is a dog whistle. Suck my dick, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Oh, shit. Do a bunch of fucking stupid racist Amerifats think Allahu Akbar or Inshallah is a dog whistle to say death to America? Well, I guess you can't say that anymore then. Like, what are we doing? Why is the standard being set by those who are trying to defend the apartheid state? Like, what the fuck? Wow, dude, that's crazy. I've seen 1,000 messages from people who are like, actually, Sweaty, why do leftists love getting in their own way? Why do leftists love coming up with dumbass slogans and like defending these dumbass slogans? I'm like, oh man, shit. I should go back to 1969 and tell the fucking PLFP that maybe stupid American liberals will someday misconstrue your very clearly defined ideological goals in dismantling the Zionist entity so that there could be a secular democratic republic for equal rights and representation for all Palestinians and all Jews living in Israel. Sorry, some fucking dipshit with a Medium article is gonna thinks this is genocidal, actually. Like, what the fuck are you saying? And it's funny because, like, plenty of people say free Palestine is also anti-Semitic. So, no, I'm not fucking conceding on this. And I'm not giving ground to those who want to cynically weaponize a real problem, anti-Semitism, in an effort to deflect away from defending an apartheid ethno-state. It's fucking ridiculous. Like this is what I was talking about. Jordan Weissman says, one problem with 2020's left-wing activism is that people fight political battles to defend their slogans instead of picking slogans that actually help them win their political battles. Like, dog, this isn't 2020's left-wing activism, you fucking idiot. What are you talking about? Like, what is the optics argument here? What optics argument are we talking about? Like, what do you mean? This has been a slogan of Palestinian emancipation since the 60s. You are the one who claims it actually means genociding all of the Jews. And you try to desperately link it back to Hamas when Hamas's adoption of the slogan is because Hamas is also a Islamist fundamentalist, okay, for sure, and also a violent, militant reaction to the apartheid, sure, but they adopted that slogan because the slogan has existed far before they did. This is the standard right-wing tactic. If they have absolutely nothing, you invent it and put your opposition on the defensive. Hasbara 101. Yeah, 100%. Like, I understand that many people feel this is a historically important phrase and that they shouldn't have to retire, but the point of the political comms is that you need to communicate your message clearly. No, it's so fucking stupid, dude. I also think it's really dumb. When people liberals love getting hard about like, oh, this sloganeering is wrong. This sloganeering is wrong. And now I'm going to do everything I can. To just only talk about the slogan and what it means to me, okay? At least ultra-Zionists have the decency to be like, Palestinians are dogs. We have to fucking nuke them. I hate these fucking liberals who can't say that, but still want to defend the fucking Israeli position, which is that, you know, Palestinians are dogs, we have to fucking ethnically cleanse them, by engaging in like semantics arguments over and over again while simultaneously battering you in the head over it. If you genuinely are a part of the cause, if you are for the movement, if you literally think that Palestinians deserve emancipation, that they do not deserve to live under an apartheid structure, okay, if you're this like liberal guy who cares about fucking human rights and shit, you wouldn't be weaving through the minutia of a fucking 70-year-old slogan. Not 70, but like 50-plus-year-old slogan. It's so stupid. The other side is so fucking stupid when you got Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, calling Palestinians human animals, when you have fucking Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party charter literally saying from the river to the sea that this belongs to Israel and the Jews, okay? This entire area belongs to Israel and the Jews, and nobody's fucking talking about any of that shit. It's always constantly trying to argue against those who are arguing for Palestinian emancipation from a cowardly way that you can't fucking actually defend a position, so you just move on to like the sloganeering. Like as though if Palestinians said, we would like to no longer, this is the new slogan, okay? From the river to the sea, it would be nice if we had a secular a democratic republic where we would be allowed to have a two-state solution, and then also on top of that, the West Bank settlements would not expand, and also maybe they would peacefully leave the West Bank settlements so we could have our own land in the 1967 boundaries. Like, is that a better... let's say that's the new slogan, okay? A slogan is just a slogan. It's not what the fucking actual words are. Stop trying to bastardize the actual fucking words. But, like, if that was the slogan, do you think Netanyahu would be like, oh, shit, guys, it was the slogan. That's why I killed 10,000 Palestinians. That's why I killed almost 4,000 children. Fuck, if I knew that there was a new slogan, I wouldn't fucking do all of this. Except I know that that's not the case. You want to know why? Because the very same people that fucking complain about From the River to the Sea also complain about Free Palestine. They say Free Palestine is also... something that Hamas has said, which means Free Palestine also means killing all the Jews. It's ridiculous. Don't fall for this fucking bait. All of these arguments over semantics are a means of distraction and deflection. I'm an Israeli. I did not know what the Free Palestine from the river to the sea meant and was psychologically suggested that it's anti-Zionist. I came here, heard what the term means for people who use the term, and understood. I don't know why that's so fucking complicated for my people to do. Of course, I know why, though. You get my point. Yeah, I mean, but for Israelis to fucking have this opinion is one thing, but American liberals who fucking sit there and are like, oh, I hear you, I see you Palestinians, it's really wrong what's going on. 4,000 children, that makes me very sad. But if only you fix the slogan. That's what is completely and utterly ridiculous, okay? If you were born into Israeli propaganda from the jump, of course you're going to be like, oh, dude, they want to kill all the Jews. Obviously, that's what I've heard my entire life. That's what I've been educated on my entire fucking life. Why? Because you have to be educated on that in order to never revolt against the repulsive actions of an apartheid regime. Yeah, the slogan is why white people didn't support BLM. Exactly. Yeah, the slogan is not the reason why white people didn't support Black Lives Matter. It was racism, okay? White supremacy is the real reason why white people did not support Black Lives Matter. Some cowardly liberals tried to make that exact same argument against Black Lives Matter, though. Why can't they use a better one? And then they go to fucking defund the police. They talk about all of these other slogans. It's like, dude, you know what the people's opinion is behind slogans. What are we? We have become a nation of marketing degrees. And that's the real problem. Everyone's got a fucking dumbass marketing degree, and they just want to like make that work. Like as though if we find the perfect, legally permissible, morally permissible slogan that has like, that leaves nothing to question, then magically the 75-year occupation will perish. Okay? The 75-year Palestinian plight will magically perish overnight. Anyway, yeah, I mean, we've covered that they voted for Hamas being completely ridiculous. Slogans do matter, though. Defund the police, while I know what that means, was easy to demonize because it came across as abolitionist. Yeah, you're too young, I think, to remember when Black Lives Matter was also routinely criticized by liberals under the Obama administration under similar terms. But you only remember because you only developed a consciousness probably in the Trump years and became more politically active during the Trump years. So you only remember a time when everyone is like unconditionally saying Black Lives Matter. Okay? Slogans are supposed to be short and quippy. Black Lives Matter could be misinterpreted. People still to this day try to misinterpret it. It's just that the number of people or the ideological background of the people that try to desperately misinterpret Black Lives Matter, okay, has shrunk. So much so that it actually literally became commoditized anyway, but that's a different subject for a different time, okay? But when it first started, when BLM first started under the Obama administration, it was regularly criticized by liberals in the same exact way. Black Lives Matter was corrupted with All Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter. I'm aware. Yeah, exactly. But everyone understands what All Lives Matter means. Everyone understands what Blue Lives Matter means, right? Everyone understands what white power means. White power came at the heels of Black power. It was a white identitarian movement because the white identitarian movement is inherently racist, white supremacist. Everyone knows what white power means. Conservatives and reactionaries always do this, okay? Just like you know what being pro-choice means, and you know exactly what being pro-life means. Do you think conservatives, when they say they're pro-life, are they actually pro-life? Do you believe that? No, because you already know. You already know what that means, so you've already made up your mind on it. But when you're faced with this thing that has been around for fucking 56 years, but you're hearing it for the first time ever, you are allowing yourself to be conditioned by those who want to defend the opposition and their framing of the term, their framing of the symbol, okay? The real reason why defund the police didn't work was because the reality is people don't want to do that. Liberals don't want to do that. Liberals don't want to fucking take funds away from these inflated police budgets and actually put it into social programs and into real mechanisms of genuinely stopping crime where it starts. That's the real reason. Does that make sense? Anyway, the real sloganeering is the top of the hour ad break. And that one actually is real. And that hurts you unless you subscribe for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Is it okay to refrain from using the term if you don't necessarily believe in a one-state solution? Why are you asking me for permission? I don't give a fuck. If you don't want to use the term, don't use the term. I'm more with Cenk on this. I don't know what Cenk is on. But Cenk also foolishly constantly talks about how it's a religious conflict. So I think I'm a little bit better read on this than he is, okay? Actually, I know I'm a lot better read on this than he is. As long as you don't fucking stand against those who are advocating for Palestinian emancipation by like constantly fucking, what do you mean disrespecting my uncle? There are things that he knows more about than I do, and there are certainly things I know more about than he does. This is one of those things. 100%. I will stand on that all day, every day. Crime statistics as well is another issue I think that I know more about him on, but that's for a different story. All right, Will and Austin are here. We're gonna get started on our podcast. I was slated to read Edgar Mentum's latest article about the president who stood up to Israel and won, George H.W. Bush, but we didn't have time for that today, so we're gonna move on. I'll be live tomorrow for more wonderful coverage. Hopefully you're not fucking dying on that, on the endless coverage here, but yeah. It's good. It's fuck time, he says. All right. Bye, everybody. We're going to do the podcast now. Greatest podcast in the world. Peace.
Sunny Los Angeles, California, says Hassan. The starlight to the topic just begun. There he is again. Hassan is streaming. Hassan is streaming. There he is again. Hassan is streaming, Hassan is streaming, reviewing the PO. Michael Uger's face. Sudden discord agitprop. Great names take on break. Tiny Bernie Sanders, LGBTQ Air Force. Coal left at your fingertips, Ane at your door. H3 crowded debate, the Young Turks online show. 3 full fucking years of this, plenty more to go. 90-day fiance, talks of champagne bourgeoisie. A Trump rally live reaction, a mass riot at DC. There he is again, her son is streaming, her son is streaming.